Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast, Supercoach edition. It is a Wednesday night for us, Thursday morning when you are listening to this. So that means one thing. It means your Supercoach fix, and it's our in-depth team previews for 2025. This episode will feature the Manly Sea Eagles, Parramatta Eels, Cronulla Sharks, and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So a ripping episode to come. Appreciate everyone who's reached out over the last week as well, whether it's to enter into the draft comp, any of the comps that we're running, to give us feedback about the episode that you watched from last week. There was so much great positivity that we received. So thank you very much for that. I hope you enjoy this one just as much. And by the sounds of it, we've gained a lot of loyal listeners. A bit of a celebration in order at the moment because we've been, and you can see the hashtag 16, the rank 16, the 16th top sports podcast in Australia at the moment. So that's huge for us. The first time I've been on that rankings list, or that I know of anyway. And to be there is at 16 is a huge, huge achievement from us. So huge shout out to the League of Inches crew, as well as Jesse and Trav, who are on this video now as well, who have helped achieve that. And the growth is incredible. So thank you to everyone out there who's helped us achieve that. Boys, before we get right into it, let's check in, see how you both are. Trav, how's things? We did check in last night, gave everyone that big thank you on the NRL podcast, but how's things tonight?
Nah, going well. Had a good game of golf today. So whilst I was playing golf, I sat there scoping through the Supercoach and getting ready for that. So as I walk in between shots, and I play lots of shots, so there's lots of walking. But yeah, no, good. I'm excited. I'm keen. Love this. I'm very, very much so look forward to Wednesday nights.
Yeah, we're ready to rip in. Jesse, we've just seen a bit of a light show happening in the background. Heads up, if anything does happen, hopefully it doesn't. Jesse's got a new modem and everything now, thanks to Telstra. Where hopefully he doesn't drop out, but if he does, he'll be straight back on. Apologies in advance if anything does happen. But Jesse, how's things for you?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you. Yeah, new modem. Thanks, Telstra. Shout out. We'll see if the storm can bear it all because, yeah, it's been pretty wild today, actually. It's been really hot, and then it's been absolutely torrential rain in between all that. So it's been a horrible day, muggy, nasty, and sticky. But, yeah, the light show behind me is pretty fun. I can see it in the video recording. Yeah, and the kids enjoyed the thunder going down to bed too. So, nah, all in all, pretty good.
I'm glad it's down that way, so keep it down there because if anyone knows me by now, I'm petrified of storms. So leave it up there for me, please. As I said, that we've told you the teams. Let's get stuck into it straight away. One last final announcement quickly before we do get into it, because a lot of people replied to the page last week after listening to this. So we've got cash comps now available for both our tipping comp, Supercoach comp, head-to-head, and NRL Fantasy head-to-head as well. If you are interested in joining any of those, places are quickly filling up. Tipping is unlimited, but the other two quickly filling up. Message the page ASAP to secure your spot. And then finally for draft, we are literally, I think, up to literally the last spot. So if you are feeling lucky, message the page if you haven't already. It's a 5-division strong league. Make sure you give us a message and you will be added in, being that lucky last player. Let's get into it. We've got first up, once again, for the YouTube watchers, we'll have this little sort of slideshow up, which will help you guys understand and help us see a few things and some of the talking points we'll get through for Manly. Again, podcast listeners, you won't be missing out on anything. You'll just be missing out on a nice fancy design that took me about half an hour to make. Please appreciate that side of it. But we'll obviously be in detail what we say as well. So straight up for Manly, the first 5 rounds, which we've been talking about all so far. Round 1, the Cowboys at home. Round 2, the Warriors away. Round 3, the Raiders at home. Round 4, the Eels at home. And round 5, the Storm at home. No, that's not a typo. They have a very nice start to the year in terms of home games. So really, that's a big point to come for here. We'll probably get to that towards the end after we go through all the positions. But yeah, that is something to keep in your back pocket there and make sure we do talk about. For the hookers, Gordon Chan Kum Tong, 232, Jake Simpkin, 318, and Lachlan Croker, 334. Any of these hookers, boys, appeal to you? It seems like there's going to be a lot of minute sharing here. There'll be probably 2, one starting, one on the bench for sure. And for mine, that just means there is no options.
To be honest with you, I don't mind the Lachlan Croker shout at 334. look, he had a pretty rough year last year. He had that injury. It was concussion, wasn't he? He was having really, really long-term concussion symptoms. So, and it did come back. It's just really low. Like, the price is really low for him. He hasn't had a great deal of output. No, he averaged 34 in 14 games, so it wasn't fantastic. But look, if he's going to be, an 80-minute or 60-odd minute hooker, which you expect probably Chen Kum Tong to have a bench spot, I don't think Simpkin's going to be too much in the mix of it all. He could go up, but I don't see a great deal of upside in him. I don't think he's got like that sort of flair about his game. It's very meat and potatoes. So, look, it's a low price. We're talking about the Mamazelis and the Sandon Smiths and Starlings and that sort of thing around the similar price point. He's right in the mix for it all. And with probably more established minutes than the others at the moment anyway. So, like it's pretty low risk, to be fair, as a backup hooker. I would say I probably wouldn't rely on him, but yeah, the other two, unless there's some pretty catastrophic injuries, I probably wouldn't look that way.
Trav?
Well, it's a good shout out with Lockie Croker as a cheaper option. I don't like he played I think last year he's played 16 matches or something like that, or 14, sorry, and he played 2 games above 70. He played against New Zealand at a 71 and got 30, and he played 80 against the Bulldogs and got 42. He consistently sits around the 40 to 50. His points per average is about 0.5 to 0.4. It doesn't scream to me like I want to have him. I think there's some better options, Mamazelis, etc., that we'll talk about as we go through. The people are all over. Sandon Smith as well. Yeah, like it's a decent shout out. I'd need to hope that he gets a few more minutes.
Yeah, in 23, he played 19 games at hooker, average of 73 minutes. He averaged basically 50. So if you're sort of going off that, barring out that injury affected year last season, he's 150k underpriced. But
well,
again,
that's the thing though. Is he on the downward spiral as well?
Yeah,
is that
that's
why
what I was going to say.
Simpkins is there and Gordon Cam Chung Tung is there as well? So
yeah,
it's
I think the best is past, unfortunately. So yeah, good for cheapie, but yeah, not a lock in.
Yeah. Front row forwards, 7 options here in the Supercoach app. Chris Patola, 232k. Josh Allier, so the starting prop, 337. Ethan Bullymore with the 2RF dual, 357. Tafua Sipley, 368k. Nathan Brown with the 2RF dual as well, 387. Taniela Paseka, 441k. And Siwa Taki Yahol, the guy that's just come back, is the highest price with a 2RF dual, 453k. Trav, anyone in this bracket enticing you at all?
There is no one that I'm interested in to start with. There are 2 players I'll keep an eye on, and I'll literally and all I'm going to say about it is keep an eye on them, and that's how does Takiaho return and what he does as an FRF at that price. It's not too bad, but I just need to see how he fits in, and I think Paseka gets better. But how much better, I don't know. 45 average last year is a good average. I think he pushes that up. And at that price of 441, that's pretty nice. I'm keen to just watch and see him, though. But, yeah, that's about all I'm interested in with the Manly FRFs.
What do you got for us, Jesse? Anything different?
Not really, to be fair. I'm not super keen on any of them, actually. I don't really think they I think they all just dip into each other too many minutes to spread around. There's just not enough upside in all of them, really. I don't think Takiaho, unless he plummets in price for a little while, and he could be a handy pickup down the line, like you mentioned. There's no one that's screaming out to me as any good value or even worth starting with at this stage.
Absolutely agree. They're the professionals, but I agree for sure. 2RF is the next one. So Dean Madison is 214k. Atasi James, 232k. Caleb Naval is 236k. Ethan Bullimore, just spoken about. Jazz Tavanga, the new signing from the Warriors, 368k. Don't they? Wish they probably had him right now after the news of Tohu at the start of the week. Michael Cheekham, centre wing dual, 374k. Mentioned Nathan Brown already. Ben Jabojevic, potentially back on the radar, centre wing dual as well, 419k. Already mentioned Takiaho. Jake Jabojevic, 503k. And the big dog of the group, Hamole Olakau'atu, 665K. Jesse, talk to us. There's obviously the big man at the top of that list. Before you mention him and talked about him, anyone else on the list interest you?
No, funnily enough, they really don't. I think like I don't mind Jas Tavunga. I think he's a base that weapon. I think he just tackles his head off, and I like his price at 368. But again, it just depends on the minutes that he gets. And if he has a very similar role to what he had at the Warriors, because he'll be an interchange god like usual. It's just how do they utilize him and where does he come in and do what he can do. But look, I'm always a fan of him, and if he does get a start, his points per minute are through the roof. But that's something that we'll have to look into down the line. Burbo, probably a bit too pricey for what we saw last year out of him. It was a lot of up and down. He had a few moments too. He kind of got us out of trouble a fair few times when we needed him, but it's not someone I'd be buying as like at 420. He's not cheap. You know, I mean, if he was in that low 300s again or 290 odd, give or take, like where he was last season, you can go, yeah, sweet. There's low risk, but at 420, it's just too much. Jake Turbo, no thank you. Takiaho again, same reasons. It's Olakau'atu. It's Olakau'atu or nothing, and he's just a freaking gun. I reckon he gets better. The home run of fixtures as well definitely complements Manly in general because they love a Brookie Sunday game, and I think it accounts for 4 of those games there. So, look, a 68-point average last year, which I don't see him dipping too far on. If anything, he'll probably just exceed that. I like it. He's in my team at the moment, and I've been flipping back and forth between Katara and Olakau'atu. At some point, I'll have both, but to start with, I really like the Manly draw, like a lot, and I think it's probably worth capitalizing on the draw and the upside out of it because his price is pretty good, man. 665. I definitely see it going up.
Trav, you're a massive Olakau'atu fan as well, aren't you?
I am very much so. My teams have split between starting Kulamutangi and Olakau'atu. My first team had Olakau'atu. I then needed the extra sort of 40 odd K. So I went down to Kulamutangi. I've now pushed it back up to have Olakau'atu. So I'm finding it quite difficult not to have him in my team. I'll post my team up in our LOI Legends, a bit of shout out for that tomorrow, which will show you where it's sitting there with my 2RF at the moment because I've been able to work something based off what we spoke about last week and get that in. So, Olakau'atu is a monster, man, and he's only going to get better. He is only going to get better. And how can you get better for when you've averaged 68? Like last year is what he got. He scored so well throughout the year to 68. He averaged 72 minutes a game. His points per minute was just under 1 at 0.9, which is good. He's just a monster. He's going to get better. I'm finding it very hard. I don't hate anyone that's got him. To not have him. So I highly recommend you get him into your team somehow.
It's a ripping sort of. I think he's going to be one of the better owned tourists to start the year, just purely out. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. That run that Manly do have at the start. Yet whenever you see the Storm in there, it's never a pretty sight. But again, it is at Brookie where they become a different team. And the fact that they've got so many home games, Olakau'atu going to that edge, running over those poor halves and 5/8s that he likes to do close to the line. A huge value pick, I think, early on. And it's not out of the realms of possibility that he actually makes some early cash, I think, as well, and can go from there with that sort of start to the season that Manly have. So I think there'll be a lot of people out there that'll be starting with Olakau'atu as their premium sort of choice in that 2RF lineup.
Yeah, I was looking at the Supercoach NRL post yesterday that of the current highest owned players, and Olakau'atu's not in the top. He is not owned by up to 39%, so he's still low. So under 39% at the moment, still a pretty good. And then this is just for those who've got the Team Picker app. So if you're a Supercoach subscriber, told you I'd get one in, then you've got access to the Team Picker. But for those people that are in that, he's still under 39% at least. So I don't actually know his full details. I haven't released everyone. So he's not super high owned at this point in time.
Yep. And his base is so solid too. I'm just looking. So last year he had this injury affected game against Penrith. So if you take that game out of it, because it was only about 20 minutes, he didn't score very much. It brings his average up to 71, and that would be priced at around that 700k. So he's already, barring that one game, he's about a 40k discount. He based about 44, which is very solid. And then all he has to do is get one or two, line breaks, something to be set up for him, which, they drop it on a platter for him half the time. And then there's his 70. It happens very quickly. So just with the base, I'm very, I'm leaning more into like those high base guys to start with. Obviously, we've spoken about the higher defensive output, and the attack sort of comes later in the year. So you get the good base guys that have the upside, and he fits the bill for everything. Like I really can't see a reason to not go for Olakau'atu to start. When you look at his output, the side looks good, the draw looks good, like everything's just sort of aligning. So yeah, heavy on the Manly boys.
We will see. And this could also work in nicely with the next sort of man we'll talk about. So halfback, got a nice little 198 cheapie there in Joey Walsh. Not too sure we'll see much of our young Joey there, but Jacob Arthur's next in line at 232 and Daly Cherry Evans, 646K. Well, he's in our talking points. The DC pod value, 76.7 average in 8 home games. So we've spoken about it already a couple of times. Trav, I'll throw to you now. Cherry Evans, talk to us. How much are you currently looking at having Cherry Evans in your team?
I've done it. I've done what I said not to do. He is in my team now. I've gone off Cleary only because the price difference between him and Cleary is just so good that I can play with it so much. The extra price difference let me get to that 600k range, and where I was able to get Pappy, and I've currently now taken Iongi out of my flex and put Pappy into my flex just off that move. With a little bit of extra cash. So I'm currently running now a three fullback with two fullbacks and a third in the flex role, just because I've been able to put him down. I'm really excited about him. Jesse's got those numbers up, the 76.7 average in 8 home games in 2024. And he's about to play 4 in the first 5. I think the Cowboys are still defensively vulnerable. I think the Warriors, you just never know what's going to happen there. The Raiders are still young and vulnerable. The Eels definitely. And the Storm's the hardest game out of those 5. But, Manly notoriously have been able to score pretty well against the Storm and do okay. So I'm not super concerned about that match at 4 Pines against the Storm. So, I'm really keen. And the amount of money that frees up to be able to do so much more, I think just is screaming to me to get him in.
Do you know off the top of your head how much the money is, just for those that don't have the app yet?
Between Cleary and Cherry Evans.
The Cleary's 811 and Cherry Evans is 647.
Quick math. 160.
Wow.
170. 170.
There you go. Yeah, that's a lot. That's significant enough. Like you're not just dropping 30k going down from Cleary. Like you're banking enough to really make changes in your side, and it's kind of worth it, I reckon, in the beginning. And even that Manly game, the Storm game that they have, he scored 70 against them last year. And then going back just the last couple of years that he's played against the Storm, in the last 4 games against the Storm, 70, 47, 104, 118. So he knows how to put a big score on Melbourne. So I wouldn't deter that either. Like that's not a bad thing at all. I'm very tempted. We had a discussion earlier today about it, and I started humoring a bit more. Again, like I spoke about it last week with the Panthers pod. I wasn't 100% committed to the Cleary start, and when I start to look into the stats on these sort of things, on how these teams start, their run that they have, their price point, it kind of makes it a bit clearer to not start with the chin. Like eventually you want him, but
with the chin.
God, there's some good value, man. There's some good value in Cherry Evans at the moment for sure.
There is. I guess the different. Yeah. Oh no, go Joel. Sorry.
No, go.
I guess the thing is, like, it's Cleary, right? So you're quite comfortable to always chuck that captain on Cleary as a safety net, and because you just know what Cleary can do. Whereas DCE does have a flaw, but we're going by averages and we're going by what he's been able to do, going by that draw, and then going by the just under 170,000 that you can save to put elsewhere. Yeah, it just screams value to me. And then, and you've got these first 5 rounds to have a look and see. Round 6, Manly then have the Sharks over in Perth. So it's not even a Sharks, like it's a Sharks home game, but it's not. It's in Perth. Then they're back at 4 Pines against the Dragons, and then they've got Penrith and then the bye. So you've got 8 rounds to have a really good look at this and let it go. And see what's going to. I just don't see Cherry Evans losing money. If anything, he stays reasonably, plateau. If not, makes a bit of money. So I don't. It screams to me like a really good safety net that really can't have much go wrong, other than, an injury affected game or something like that. The HIA or something where he gets a really low score, and then that stuffs you right up.
Yeah, I'd be pretty well happy to like run with Cherry Evans to start for 7 rounds, and then come that Panthers game, just flip him to Cleary, because he's probably going to score quite low against Penrith, and they got to bye the week after.
Yep.
So you get out of that, like you get the sting out of the first 7 rounds where everything's pretty structured, and then that's your ticket, providing he doesn't lose cash. But again, I can't see him averaging less than 60 in the first 7
And
rounds.
there's also a bit of a spanner to come into the works here, because he hasn't mentioned anything yet. But he could be retiring from Origin effective immediately, or at least for obviously next year that'll matter. But if it's this year, he could then become a realistic option in that Origin period as well, where he's versing teams that are under strength, and we all know his capabilities. And if it potentially could be then turning into his last year as well, there's a lot riding on it, and he's still a hell of a player. Like, he's still, for mine, one of the better halfbacks and playmakers in this competition by a long way. So he could be a huge player this year in Supercoach throughout majority of the year, because we all know he has a good little run home often as well. So it could be a really big year where a lot of teams have Cherry Evans at some point of the year. Then again, draft-wise, he could be a good pick fairly early, or he could be picked up early on in a few drafts.
What I haven't done, and something that I wouldn't mind doing, is having a look at Cherry Evans when he's got all his weapons, and then what Cherry Evans does when he doesn't have his weapons. Because throughout Cherry Evans' career, he's been avid for, particularly in the last few years, he's had to manage Turbo injuries, Olakau'atu injuries, Garrick not playing. Like, he's had to manage a lot of his guns and injuries, and what he does. Something that we might do a bit of a stat deep dive over the next week or two, guys, and put some posts out there, because it'd be interesting to see, seeing as the DCE value is becoming much bigger.
It's just when Manly get the wheels turning and they start to get a bit of a roll on, and they sweep teams when they're flying, because they don't just win by 6. You know what I mean? Like, when they're rolling and Turbo's on, Garrick's on, like they win by 30. And there's really 4 guys that excel in there. It's Cherry Evans, Garrick, Turbo, and Olakau'atu most of the time, and they're the boys that steamroll. So when one guy gets going, the 4 of them tend to score quite well. So, and that's what I mean. Like, it's one of those things. How many can you have? I think to start, I think you can have friggin' all of them, and they're definitely worth what they're weight in gold to start with anyway. So, yeah, I think they all play well together, and they all just score well. So.
And that's the big thing when they're doing those carve-up games, traditionally at Brookie as well. Cherry Evans is always finding the way to the line 1 or 2 times where he's just under the sticks every time, booting the ball into the crowd. We all know the scenes that he always does. So he just always can almost give him at least 2 tries in those sorts of games. And they're the games you want to have him. So 5'8", I think move on to Lukey Brooks, the sole player option here, 529K. Bit of a smoky last year. A few people did ride with Luke Brooks at certain points throughout the year. Jesse, I believe you started with Luke Brooks, if my mind serves me correct. No, you didn't in the end?
No, I didn't start with Luke Brooks. I had him. I actually think I traded Cleary to him after his injury. Yeah, and I had Brooks for a little while. To be fair, wasn't too bad. He started really hot too, and I guess
Yeah.
everyone was sort of anticipating what is Luke Brooks going to do at Manly now? Because he's busted the shackles of the Tigers off him, and he started really good. He was a bit of a good play for a while, especially in draft, and he was also a dual last year too. He had the dual halfback, and he doesn't have that anymore. So, look, I'm not really looking too much into the Luke Brooks thing. We kind of got the gist of what he was about last year and saw how it was going to go. He's going to be that mid-50s guy most of the time,
Yeah.
give or take. He'll have bigger games and then he'll have quieter games. I don't think he's got the same consistency as Cherry Evans will, but yeah, it's a bit of a nothing pick, to be honest. I think there's better options at 5'8" overall, especially for less.
Yeah. Trav, anything further to add to the Brooks selection?
Nothing to add. 529. Look, kudos to him. He did 50. He averaged 54 last year in his 24 games. So he's played basically the whole year. He did what we had to do, but he's not an option this year for us. He won't get any better, and if anything, he'll drop.
Yep. No, fair shout. CTWs for Manly. This will be a nice little chat here because there's a few potential options. And as we've already said, if they do get on a run at times, then there's some definite options here become very much you look at it with those love heart eyes and go, come on into my team, please. You've got to time the run right. Clayton Falalo, 232. Aaron Shoup, everyone forgot that he was a mid-season signing last year, I think, from the Titans, 242. Raymond Tamalo Vega, 349K. I already mentioned Michael Cheekham with his dual, Ben Trbojevic with his dual. Mr. Cooler is a fullback dual, 455K. Tommy Talau, what a year he had last year, 526K. Jason Saab, 528K. Lehigh Hopperwati, fullback dual, 589K. And Mr. Ruben Garrick, 680K. Got a bit of a dot point there on the screen for the YouTube watchers, for the podcast listeners, let you know what it says. Garrick, 69.3 average in 9 home games last year. And on the wing, Trav has a little bit of mail he's read from somewhere. We'll go to him in a minute to know. There's rumors that he might be going back to the wing. 2023 was the last time he played. 3 games he played on the wing at an average of 94. Remember, I think that was the year Turbo was out for a lot of the year, and he did play a lot of time at fullback as well, I believe. So, but he had 3 games on the wing and a 94 average. Trav, straight to you. Obviously, Garrick's a huge talking point, so let's go to him first. What have you heard around the traps about Garrick?
Just there's a lot of hype train around the fact that he's now going to get named on the wing, which just excites me so much more. I think he's got better try scoring ability there. Everything fits in really nicely for Garrick to improve even further on his average that he did in 2023 and 2024. What's funny is that he averaged 69.5. He played 22 games last year. There was a couple of games where he scored really low that were injury affected. Like he's got that round 5-1 against Penrith. He's got the round 7-38 against the Titans. He's got a round 9 round 15 against St. George where he scored a 9, and he still finishes the year with 69.5. Like that's just stupid. That's stupid. And Joel, I can remember really clearly in a review podcast that we had where people were talking around that Garrick was not the Garrick of old. Garrick's no good. He's not even a top 10. Supercoach wise, he's a freaking monster. Like this is just sick. I haven't done the maths of what he would have had it as an average if he didn't have that 9 and that 1 even. And let's just say that 38 and that 36 are just outliers. Actually, I'm going to go even further. Sorry, it's a bit of a ramble. But then he got a 15 in round 21 against the Roosters. So there's 3 games under 20 with still an average of 69.5. So, yeah, I'm incredibly high on Garrick, especially at the wing, playing, full 80 minutes, kicking with that start. I think there's just points on board. Like, that game against the Cat, like all of them, even against the Storm, there's still going to be Storm are good defensively, but, this is a game at home. I think the Storm would grind that out for around a 20-odd sort of game, which still relates to a few extra points for Garrick in field goals. Like it's just, Yeah, man. I can't get any more on board that hype train, and I think you'll start to hear, particularly through this podcast and in coming ones. I'm all over the hypes at the moment. Like my team are just frothing with when hypes come out. Like there was a hype around Carrigan that came out a couple of days ago, and I chucked him in after I had a look at the stats for it. I've got Garrick. I'm hyped up on Dearden with the news I'm hearing of him. Like my team's full of hype train at the moment, and Garrick is number one. Get him in your side. I think where he's my number one center wing at the moment.
Trav is all hyped. Just he's the hype man. He's hyped. You've got him hyped. If we mention hype anymore, I think we might get the podcast shut down. But that might be the headline hype. You're absolutely spot on though. With that run, if it's on the wing, honestly, he probably becomes the most popular and the one guy I'm so keen about and can't envision myself not starting this year. There's a guy coming up we're going to talk about, but if Garrick is confirmed on the wing, I think he overtakes him. That's insane if he ends up on the wing. Jesse?
Yeah, so I actually went and just dropped up those games that you didn't like there, Trav. I just binned him, saw what his average will be. 79.2 without those 3 low-scoring games, which he got just knocked out cold in. So you know,
that's if you put it to a 0. Yeah, is that how you did it?
I've just binned him. Those games are gone out of the list. Yeah, he averaged 79.2, and like he's traditionally averaged more than 70. Like he averaged 70 in 23, averaged 70 in 22, averaged 87.5 in 21, and that was a year that Turbo averaged like 140 or something ridiculous. So like he has it, you know what I mean? Like he's just got it in him. He can do it. If he goes to the wing, I think those 3 games as well are at Brookvale as well. Specifically, just looking at the Brookvale fixtures. So, look, he kicks. He's got the upside. We know what he can do on the wing. He's just a lock-in Supercoach center wing royalty. Yeah, and for that price too, we're talking about so many more guys like, more expensive than him. He's not even 650. And we're going to be jumping at the seams to get this bloke in our team. As soon as he scores that first ton, we're like, why don't we have Garrick?
Yeah, so he's 680K. I think but here, as you said, as a 79.2, with those 3 games disappear, that he'd be priced at 774. So he's almost 100. Well, he's $94,000 cheaper than with those 3 games disappeared than what he's like. It's that's exciting, man. That's exciting.
I'm glad they happened. I'll take the discount.
Yeah, I think what everyone can take out of this is that we're all super keen on Garrick at wing, and everyone probably should be. In saying that, he's hogged a lot of the limelight, and rightly so by those numbers. Jesse, is there anyone else in this Manly list that we haven't mentioned already with their duels, but the Saabs, the Talaus, the Hopperwadis, anyone sticking out that you're going, maybe?
Yeah, there is. And it's more so about the structure of the backline now. Like if the plan is for moving Garrick out to the wing, then what happens to the rest of the side? Because as far as it went, like they looked pretty well set into their positions. And the one that was the one that missed out, unfortunately, was Lehigh Hopperwadi. And he was a freaking gun. Like he was a monster in Turbo's absence when he was playing fullback. So he definitely deserves a spot. But at the same time, like if you're just looking at the form of last year, they all deserved a spot. Like everybody did their job quite well. Talau did really good. To his credit, Saab actually did pretty well when he caught the ball. So like there's guys in that side who, they can do the job. Like they're all very well in the attack, but and not to mention Cooler. Like we haven't even spoken about him yet too. So like they got a wealth of talent, and unfortunately they're one spot short and they just can't fit them all in. So it just depends. Like Garrett goes to the wing. Who's the center? Are they humoring the Turbo idea,
and then Chuck Hopperwadi and then Chuck Hopperwadi into the fullback.
Yeah,
but,
so
I don't think that happens. But geez, that would be juicy if they did.
Talau center.
So Talau center
at the moment, it'll be I think Talau.
Yeah, with Cooler, and then you got
honestly Hopperwadi gets the fullback spot. He'll be almost a locket center CZW for so many people. It'd be ridiculous.
Well, he's got the dual now. So last year we missed out on Hopperwadi because of he was only fullback and scored pretty well. This year you've now got him as dual. So it's definitely a watch and see for him. There's some big space. I think Turbo is still at center would be would be still huge as well to fix that problem.
Oh God, that much money spent in your centers, Turbo Jewel would be the best thing to ever happen. So yeah, it just depends. Like who's the fullback, and whoever it is, I'm very keen on them. Regardless if it's Hopewadi or if it's Turbo, like I don't care, to be honest with you. They're both great. The Hopewadi Jewel is so juicy. If I could get him in that center wing, it would be amazing. It just depends which one it is, and whoever it is, I'm very keen to start with. So really good. And then, like the same as Cooler, he's got that Jewel too. There'll be a point somewhere this year where Cooler will be super relevant to have in our side. It's just when is the big
timing
question.
that run.
Yeah, you just got to time it. Maybe around Origin, depending what the back line looks like then. So, no, who knows? But yeah, very exciting options. It's a couple of goodies.
And it's basically a perfect segue into then the fullback option. Cooler and Hopewadi have their jewels as mentioned. Tommy Trbojevic, 875K, the 89.4 average last year. On the screen once again, Turbo averaged 101 in 7 home games in 2024. That's not even talking about his golden year. We're talking about last year. 101 in 7 home games is insane. Once again, we keep saying it, but these home numbers speak for themselves, I feel like. And Trav, Turbo, it's almost looking too good to be true.
Yeah, so thanks to Jesse for the stat dive that he's done there with the 7 home games on that average of 101. Guys, you're blessed to have a dude like Jesse giving you some numbers. It's I don't even know what to say, really. It's such a hard one because he's 875K. The numbers are just so high. He's got such a good run early. I don't have him in my team because I can't afford it. I can't afford it, but geez, it's one of those ones where, like, over the last couple of years, if you didn't have David Fafita, everyone was hiding behind their couch, kind of looking up, going, "Oh, geez, I hope he hasn't done it." Like, this is one of those moments, right, where I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I don't have Turbo," and I'm just peeking above the couch, and every time he touches it, I'm like, "No!" And I dive and I hide and hope he doesn't. Like, it's going to be one of those ones. It's going to be because I can't afford him. I just can't afford with the way that I've built my team to have him. But God, if you can and you've got him, this is just the numbers just scream God material. My hope is that he doesn't early and I can get him because I really want to. But get him in your team. Do what you can. Get him in your team.
Jesse, you had a good look at this. You ran the numbers. Talk to us. Are you starting with Turbo?
I'm finding every way I can to get him in my side to start with. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I'm not gonna build my side around and then see what fullback I can afford. I think it's put him in there first and then see what team you can afford around him. He's the hardest death ride you'll do in Supercoach if you don't have him. Trav put it perfectly. Every time I watch the game, I didn't have Turbo on my side, and realistically, whoever you're playing in your head-to-head probably does have him. And that's the scariest part, is that you almost have to face him every week. I hated it. I freaking hated it. And in games where he was terrible, he was just lethargic. He was slow off the mark. He still averaged 90 in those games. Like, he was still banging out at least an 85 in a game where you're like, Turbo's done nothing. He's just been plodding along and he still almost hits 100. It's terrifying. So yeah, it's one of those things now. I think the more and more I look into it, the more I like seeing him in my side. I think I'm just going to try and work a way around it and make it happen. It could be that Cleary to Cherry Evans move that gives me the coin to go from like a Ponga up, because it's not far off the mark. So there's definitely ways to do it. And I don't think you sacrifice anything. I think what you make up having Turbo on your side pretty much outweighs whatever you've had to do to get him. And then, the argument always comes up around him and injury. Like, he's so injury prone. You're going to have him for 10 games this year. It's like, well, they're going to be the best 10 games I have. And I'm going to love every 10 of them. So, like, I'm very keen to just, like, it's one of those, you have him, you don't have to worry about it. And then if he does get injured, you just move him on to a Lehigh.
Just remind me.
The price.
Sorry, Trav.
I was going to say, with the price point with that as well, if he does get injured, you don't get stuck because you're already paying almost premium dollar. You can literally just go down to almost any single fullback option that there is.
Basically.
Yeah. Did he play Origin? Did he play all 3 games of Origin last year?
played
No.
two because Best came in for the last one, I think. He
Mm.
was missing for the last one, I think.
Okay, so he's
I think he played the first two.
because he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then didn't play till 18, then played 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26. He played 18 games. Missed 2 because of Origin. Obviously had the buys at the same time. That's a lot of games for Turbo, so maybe the injury thing isn't such a big concern.
Yeah, and in those back-end games too, like he scored, geez, he timed up 6 times.
Round 19, 119, round 20, 174, 45, 121, 105, 158, 65.
That 174, that 158, 111, 119. Like the only person who can do that is Turbo consistently. Like we saw Teddy do it quite a lot. You saw Ponga does it here and there. No one does it like Turbo. There's no one better in Supercoach when he's on than Tom Trbojevic, hands down. I'm just going to lay it out there flat as. Oh man, what a run! Like why not? Why not just bless yourself?
Yeah, you basically. I think we could say any more, and much more highly. But Turbo is definitely. If you don't have him, you're trying to make a way to get him in. Yeah,
you got rocks in your head.
Yeah, you basically got rocks in your head. We'll put it out there. Get the shirt, guys. Message the page. Get some merch. Help support us moving forward. Get seen in and around the public with your LOI League of Inches shirts. But last point here, we have spoken about a couple of times. We'll just quickly get it out there. The target of the early, targeting Manly early with their home games. Boys, you both have sort of mentioned this a couple of times already with the Manly run. Who is happy to tackle this and probably take the majority of this talking point because you don't need to say it twice. But what's your thoughts around this targeting Manly early with this huge home run? And we can see by the numbers how much it actually spikes a lot of these players, their averages and their totals.
Trav?
Go, Jesse. No, you go, mate.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think we've spoken about it. Like the big four in Manly are the ones, that we've mentioned throughout this pod. Garrick, Cherry Evans, Olakuatu and Turbo. And the home games speak for himself. They have a plethora of them to start the year with, and I find their prices reasonable for their potential. The only real expensive one, the bank breaker, is Turbo, and he always is anyway, so it's not a problem. The other boys are all floating around that 600, that mid 600 mark, and like you can make that happen. If you start with all four, like that's obviously it's pretty ambitious on the four of them, but they're the four guns out of that side, and you can definitely make points and money out of all four of them. So, but the thing is, like, I'd hate to trade any of them away. The Cherry Evans would be the only one that I'd look to trade, having them in my side, and it would be to upgrade to. The other three of them are just seasoned keepers. So you get them in and you just run with them for a long time. And round 8 bye, and then Penrith, like, yeah, so what? It's going to be a rough, 2 games between them, but I think you more than make up for it. So if you're going to target fixtures, I think these guys have the most generous because they are so good at Brookvale. Yeah. That's
Trav, anything further to add?
No, and I think it, as we said, to just further elaborate and extend on that, it's not even just the first 5 rounds; it's the first 7. It's even the first 8, and then they go into that bye. And just to put it out there, you probably don't go Evans to Cleary because you got Cleary has a bye in round 11, and then probably plays Origin in that period, so then he's distracted by that. So you probably don't do that. So it might extend to in an ideal world that DC sits there for a bit longer. It's hard to ignore. It's really hard to ignore. I don't think having 4 Manly blokes in your team's going to hurt you at all. I think if you could afford to have all 4 of them, I think you can see by their averages, even as that they will still score. I think by the run, I think everything screams out and is a positive. I think it's a bigger risk not having them than it is to have them at this point in time for that early draw.
Agreed.
Yeah. Perfect. That's Manly, guys. YouTube comments. Let us know your thoughts around anything we're speaking about with Manly. If there's nothing we have touched on that you feel like is a very valid point, add in the comments as well. I think you can do it now on the podcast side of things with Spotify and that as well. So put your comments there or just simply message the page and we'll always happily talk Supercoach. Otherwise, as Trav rightly pointed out, the LOI Legends group on Facebook. Only $2.99 a month. Help support us a little bit financially. It's less than a cup of coffee. We keep talking about it per month. And also we talk exclusive content, Supercoach, NRL, and the rest as well. So go
Word
ahead.
is a
Get in
cup
that
of coffee is
group.
about to be $12 too. So
Yeah, well,
you'll
there you
get
go.
4 months out of it.
You will. Next up here is the Parramatta Eels. The first 5 round 1, Storm away. Round 2, Tigers at home. Round 3, the Bulldogs at home. Round 4, Manly away. Round 5, the Dragons at home. Again, the talking points are there to make sure we've got something to talk about and remind us, as well as keep you guys entertained on YouTube. Hookers straight away. So Joey Lussick, 344K. Brendan Hands, 349K. Hands up, boys. Anyone that spikes your interest here? Any talking points?
No.
No, they're just going to hurt you all year. I had Lussick for so long, and you just get sucked into it. Like, Hands has potential if he gets 80, but it's probably not going to happen.
I just don't want to talk about it, boys, because I just don't want to get people sucked into it.
That's the
we
thing.
just got to try and avoid it because you just can't. Don't do it. I did it last year. I'm slapping my head about it. Everyone else is just wait and see what happens. And even if he does come out and scores 100 one game, don't get sucked into that. Just wait another game. Just don't. We have to change that subject because I don't want people to get into it.
Yeah.
The thing that I can tease people about, I feel like Lussick won't spend much time in first grade this year, but that doesn't necessarily mean Hands will get the minutes that people are wanting or expecting. I believe Joash Papali'i will be the 14, but that means he will come on and play a bit of hooker when he does come on. So Hands will still have his minutes eaten into. I wouldn't touch any at the start. I'll just keep an eye on things, see how much Hands is playing after about 4 or 5 weeks. If he's playing about a 60-odd role, he might be able to get that average up a little bit. But again, I don't think it's worth getting too involved with any of these two, especially early on, our early days in your Supercoach journey. I just think avoid too much of a headache.
Don't do it to yourself, peace.
No.
Yeah.
Please.
It's just not worth it.
Is that it, Jesse? I feel like you're bubbling away there. You've got.
I'm actually just having a squiz. So I'm just having a quick look at what Hands has done in decent minute roles. Averaging over 60 minutes, give or take. He gets 75-minute games if he's not splitting minutes between them. He's got an average of about 47 at hooker.
Yeah,
so
not worth
it's not massive. It's not, through the roof.
Better
it's
option.
not going to, you're just going to get hurt more than you're going to have better runs. So avoid.
That's all right. Front row forward, Sam Tuivati, 198 again. Sorry about the pronunciation, guys. Wiramu Greg, 232K. Joe Offahengawi, 2RF Dual, 437. And Junior Paulo, 492K. As a supporter, none of those interest me on or off Supercoach. What about you boys? Any interest there?
I don't have any interest, but I'll ask you a question. I have this written in my notes to ask you, Joel, because I am seeing a few teams and I'm seeing some interest in Offahengawi, and I just don't know. I don't know why. So I'm going to go back to you and give me some insider information, please, Parafan.
Well, I guess the inside information is the fact that out of all our forwards that have been bashed for probably 2 years now, especially towards the back end of last year, Joe looked like a player that wanted to be at the club. Started to get a few minutes. I don't know what the stats are behind it, but if he can get 2 stints, he does work his ass off. He is a bit of a worker. I don't know if he does get decent base. Jesse will be able to talk about this after I finish this little spiel, but to me, he does work quite a bit. That might be the, I guess, appeal to certain people out there. For me personally, I would like to see Hopgood go into the front row rotation at least for parts of the game, which will then eat into some of Offahengawi and some of these other middles minutes, because I think Hopgood will be playing at least 70 minutes per game, in my opinion, and needs to have Parramatta anywhere near talking finals football for this year. So personally, I don't think Offahengawi is a huge realistic option, but Jesse's probably had a look now while I've spoken. If he can pull in some decent base numbers and he can get 2 stints, then maybe not the worst, but I think there's better options.
Yeah, he's one of the only guys that I've seen get worse after leaving the Tigers. So in games where he's played, over.
Oh, I've just lost it. Oh no.
Sorry, Eels fans. It's not hard to do at
man.
that side. In games
So
where he's
unprofessional. Lost it.
You're allowed. It's fine. We're covering Parramatta. So back to it. In games where he's played more than 50 minutes at front row, specifically at prop, it's been an average of about 54 minutes, and he's averaged 54 points. So he's about a point a minute guy. It really just depends on how many minutes he gets, and then you're looking at about 100k. Currently underpriced 100k. So, and he's a dual, which is nice. So he's definitely got potential. Like, he was really good as a lock, I believe, for the Tigers when he was there. He had an absolute worldie of a season too. Went to the Eels, didn't get game time, didn't get minutes for whatever reason. Just was not a feature in that side where he probably should have been. And then, since then, it's actually been quite slow for him. So expecting him to just fill the void that Campbell Gillard's left, I would imagine if he takes Campbell Gillard's minutes, he gets 50, because that's thereabouts what he was getting. So if he just seamlessly fills in the void, there's every chance he's underpriced at 440. What is he? 437.
He's 437.
437 as a dual. It's probably a bit more than I'd want to spend on him. If it was a bit less, I'd definitely be keen, to be honest with you, with the dual, with guaranteed starting position, with an uptick in minutes. Like, he's going to go up. There's no doubt about it. I can't see him really dipping below a 437. Like, he's going to definitely have the output for it. I don't know if it's going to be huge though. I think you could probably still confidently get him for maybe 50 more if you really wanted him. But you'll get an idea about it. I'm just so curious about Parramatta at the moment that I don't have one in my side besides Iongi. But again, that's just a simply cash point. I just don't know. I really don't know what to expect from him. And Frop's such a low scoring upside position anyway. I don't know if I'd want to be putting my eggs in the basket.
No.
Maybe at some point.
So he averaged 44 last year, played 24 games at 41 minutes at 1.1. So, right, if he drops that back down to his a 1 point per minute, but you think he gets about 50, he's going to get a 50. How much does he rise from 437 for a 50? 60k. I'm not sure that's worth it for you. So
No.
I was eager to hear what it was, and I had that already in the back of my mind of where I thought he might go. I sort of agreed that I thought he might eat into some of RCG's minutes because someone has to. It's a big loss for Para, but I don't see it being much more than 50. Maybe 55 if you're lucky, which still only scores you 55, which only makes him, just under 540, which still means he's only risen 100k. And when you've got a mid price at 437 starting with, you want him to be, you're wanting him to make it minimum 150k minimum.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
I would say so. Yeah,
not worth it. It is not worth it, in my opinion. But credit to him if someone's out there trying to start with him or whatever. 2 RF, Saxon Pryke, 198. One of those cheapies, same as Tony Matali. Charlie Geimer, 232k. Had a little bit of a nice 2-game stint last year before unfortunate injury got to him. Matty Dury, 232k. Luca Moretti, 337. Kalma Tuolangi, 433. Already mentioned Joel Fahengawi. Jack Williams, the new signing from the Sharks, 455. Sean Lane, 508k. Ryan Madison, 509k. Bryce Cartwright, 560k. And finally, Hop Goat, 657k. Couple of talking points. We'll smash through those first. Hop Goat. Let's talk about the GOAT himself. Is he back? I believe, Trav, this is your question. Is the GOAT back? Tell me, what is your opinion on your own question?
Hey, I asked the question for you guys to answer it, and the public, I want to know. But I don't know if he's back, but bloody hell, I'm excited about it. I love the way he goes about things. I love how he plays. I love what he does. I'm just so excited for him. At 657, it's bloody expensive, but 657 on a 67 average in 12 games. Is he back? I think he's definitely someone to keep in the back of my mind. I'm not going to start with him, but I have definitely put the star on him as he's on my very, very big watch list, particularly after the first 5 rounds. I think I want to see him get past the Storm. I want to see him get past the Bulldogs and even Manly early, and particularly if Manly pick up some early confidence and some momentum. Geez, they're going to be hard in round 4. So I'm really keen to see what Hopgoat does in the first 4 rounds and as a big, big watch and wait.
Jesse, Hopgoat will go down in history for his 2023 season amongst super coaches out there.
Yep.
Do you think he's returning to his glory days in 2025, or are you going to approach with caution?
Glory days for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's just got that game. I don't think it was a fluke. You know, I mean, that was the hype of Hopgood before he even signed for the Eels. It was just like, this guy's a freak. What did the Panthers do? And then he goes there and he just does exactly what everyone expected, be a freak. And he was, you know, what was he, 350K or something to start off with in 23, and then just skyrocketed. Average 73 in 2023, average 67 last year, obviously missed a lot of it too with injury. Average minutes 59. So like his points per minute, again, 1.1. I expect those minutes to probably go back up. I think he is probably due for basically, you just put him out there for 80. Just let him run the entire game and he'll probably kill it. Man, I'm so tempted. Hey, I'm really keen on him. I've had him in a few sides that I've put together before, and I've been quite vocal about, you know, I'm very, very tempted to start with him. Because, yeah, like his base is through the roof. Even last year, he based with power, base 62.4. Astronomical numbers. Without the power stats, it's 51. It's still huge. And then on 67 average, like he's just his base weapon. You just chuck some other things in there, some offloads and, you know, this and that. If he can get over the line once or twice, man, like it's a Hopgood of old. And the Hopgood of old is, 2 years ago. So, yeah, no, very keen, honestly.
I got to jump in and give you some stats, right? That made me post this question. So, and why I said I need to wait till about round 5, but I'm going to give you some interesting stats. So against the Bulldogs, he got in round 1, 61. Against Panthers last year, 104. Another tough game last year for defensive wise, Melbourne 84. And then at the end of the year, against the Bulldogs on 34 minutes. So he got injured, but on 34 minutes, he got 35. So he was going above point a minute in that game. So who knows what he could have done against that. Chuck in the 2 Manly games that he played, 49 and 67. Like he's almost match off proof based even just on what he did last year with what he got. He started the year averaging 61, then averaging 82. Then he dropped to 71. Then he went up to 74, 72, 72, 70. And it wasn't until round 8 that he got under 70. He was 69.6. So his average is still there. We've got him because of that injury game against the Bulldogs, priced at a 67. And we think he's going to be at least above mid 70s. Like we've got him.
Forget Yo. This is the guy.
Or
less, or a lot less. Why not both? Because I'm not made of money.
Yeah, look, I think very keen. It's just about, do you start with him? I guess, as Jesse rightly said, perhaps that cheaper Yo option, and Trav rightly pointed out earlier how you can work your money out to try and get someone that's similar, a bit cheaper, get a bit more value out of it. Then it allows you to play with that money and go elsewhere. Yeah, as I said earlier, I anticipate him maybe to start at lock on the team sheet. But then, as I said, I reckon he'll play some minutes at prop, if not move completely to prop as well. There's a couple of whispers I have heard around the traps, but he'll be a long minute playing prop. It won't be one of those 2 stints of 20 minutes. He'll be there to play some really big minutes. I think Riles knows he needs to get some big minutes out of Hopgood. The forward pack for mine just isn't quite up to it. Kelma Tuolungi, is he a realistic mid option that we need at 433K? Couple of numbers here once again. Thank you, Jesse. 2024, 8 games of 50-plus minutes starting edge, a 64.5 average. So that's pretty insane. If it looks to me as well, just quickly from what I've heard, he has got a starting spot almost sewn up. Jesse, talk to us. You did the numbers. Kalmar,
Yeah.
do you think he's firming as a realistic mid option at 433?
Definitely. Yeah, I really do. If it does line up for him where he is going to get that lock spot, the starting edge spot, and it's guaranteed, and it's it's going to be the way. The numbers were there for last year. Like when he got those long stint games, um, his points were there for it. Like he actually did pretty good job. Watching those games, I thought he was a bit of a liability, and I think he got caught out quite a lot. I know he did get moved around a little bit as well in those games where he was exposed, but eventually, obviously, he came into it, and the Supercoach stats sort of, they carried on with his performance. Like he did quite well, but at his starting price, if that's the sort of output to expect with minutes, yeah, it's really good. It was very similar to what happened in 23 with Bryce Cartwright when he got that starting spot, and he was priced less than that. And I started with him that year too, just thinking, look, he's only going to be a temporary starting spot, but again, at the same time, it's quick cash. This could be a quick cash move. I don't know if you want to keep Kelma Tuilagi in your long term team, but if you can make 100k, I don't want to get stuck with these mid 400 guys like we did last year and not be able to get off them. And I feel like he could very well fall into that trap. But yeah, just looking at the games where he got minutes last year, the numbers were definitely there for him to potentially make a good 150 odd, 100k at least. And I hope it's not a slow burn if you are going to do it. So could very well be realistic. There's not many options in the mid 400s at the moment. So
yeah, Trav, is Kelma a pick for yourself or anyone else in the rest of this 2RF forwards at the moment that you want to talk about?
No one else in the 2RF that I want to talk about. Kelma's not in my thought pattern at all. I haven't done as big as deep dive as what Jesse has done, but I didn't really want to. I knew what he had done at the end of that year in terms of like he was like the Souths game in round 12, 13, 14 and 15. South Sharks, Bulldogs, Sydney, he went 57, 73, 80 and 40 in those minutes and then didn't play till 24, 25 and 27. He played the Roosters, Broncos and the Tigers and got 86, 63 and 81. They're good stats on good numbers, but like in like almost nothing kind of games. Like I just, Jesse said it really well just before. I just don't want to get stuck with these mid-range 400 guys. I'm currently sitting there with Gilbert. I don't want to have anyone else. It's either I'm going to, I have to have two superstars. It's who I have that in the 2RF because there's a plethora of options. Then I want that mid 400s, and then I want to drop down to a Fiuiaki, and then I want some like real cheap options. And I just can't afford another mid 400, and I just feel like that's a bit of a trap for me.
Can I just quickly mention the Cardi party? Is it officially over? Can we declare the Cardi party's done?
Not when Moses is back. Absolutely not. I think he's good, man. I think if he's going to be on that side with Lomax too, like the potential's there because he can find the line for sure. I'm a fan of Cartwright in general, so I wouldn't buy him. I think he's too dear to buy in for your side at 560. It's a lot of money to spend up on Cartwright in general, but yeah, I just keep thinking back to the 2023 season where he was just a freaking gun, and yeah, he scored really well for the entire season. So. Same as Madison. I'm a massive Madison fan as well, particularly in draft going back to 2018 at the Roosters. Like they're really good options on their day, but again, I just don't know if I'll be committing to them in general. And it could just be the Eels factor for me. I'm just a little bit torched from last year, so I kind of want to avoid them all.
Mate, you're saying that from a Supercoach fan. Imagine being a fan.
Yeah, exactly. God, don't envy you at all.
Oh, torch is an understatement, but anyway. Halfback position. I'm declaring the Cardi party over, by the way. So anyway,
fair.
Halfback, it's done. Halfback, Dean Hawkins, a new signing from the Rabbitohs, a bit of depth there, 332k. Mitchy Moses, the second player in this list, 628k. There is another option, guys. Do not worry about that. He's been given the dual halfback, Dylan Brown. So I think at 651k, we're going to talk about both, and obviously more so Dylan Brown in a 5'8" sort of department, but he's here. I feel like he's not been spoken about enough so far this offseason. And when people are talking about different options to get away from Cleary, I understand, but he's very consistent. Like everyone's gone on about how bad his year was last year, which as a fan, I do think it was a pretty horrible year. To average 66 for a Supercoach year is really, really good. Like that's a really good Supercoach year for a 5/8 in a year that position was a bit stinky apart from when Wishart came along and helped a lot of people out. Dylan Brown, guys, what's going on with him at the moment? No one's saying boo. I have not seen one team with him.
I haven't humoured it at all, to be honest. And for no particular reason either. I was very, very keen to start with him last year, and obviously, like, he was super consistent. Basically, got a 60 minimum in a team that was just struggling, and it was painful to watch. And somehow he always managed to score at least a 60. So I was very impressive on his side to keep his score so well in such a bad team. But uh, again, I don't know. Like, and he's more appealing this year that he's a jewel. And he's much cheaper than he was last season. And again, I'm just the same thing as you. I haven't seen a lot of love for him. I think I'm a little bit off, a little bit just around the injury side of things, just going into the start of the year. Still, the back of your mind, obviously, it could have been pretty bad. So I don't think it really worries him too much in general. But I don't know. I just don't know if we expect too much from Dylan Brown. And I think we have this idea in our heads that we expect him to be this 70 plus, 675 averaging guy, and I don't know if he is. And you're getting yourself disappointed about it. But like, if you just go realistic and say he's a 60s guy or a mid 60s guy, sweet, and then you get those 60 scores and you're happy with it. But again, like, I don't know. At 650, we spoke about Cherry Evans, similar price point. There's your halfback. He's got the jewel. You look at the 5/8. There's other options in 5/8 for a bit less. I just don't know where he fits the bill now. But yeah, I still feel like he's a great option.
Trav might be looking at this, and Jesse, you might be able to look at these numbers as well. I'm not too sure, but I throw him now. I feel like in a way, and I don't look at these stats like you boys do. Is he fixture proof as well? I feel like he does. He'll knock out his 65 or so, no matter who he's versing, basically. Trav?
No, he's not fixture proof. I mean, he put a 42 against the Tigers in round 4, and then put a 57 against the Tigers in round 27. He got a 40 and against the Broncos, a 36 against the Sydney Roosters. So I wouldn't say he's fixture proof, but they're not poor, like really terrible scores. Just bear in mind, so I did do some maths on this one. So there was the score is his average is actually inflated 4.5 points because he got 162 against St. George in the round 26. If you take that down to his average of 66, of it gives you a total score of like somewhere just of it where he averaged 62.3. So his average drops basically 4.5 points if he gets a 60 odd off that 162. So yeah, I'm not super keen on Dylan Brown. I think the public has seen why it is the same. I think just what we saw last year, he is kind of ever so Mr. Consistent, but we've got better. I think we've got better options with better upside, with better things that we can put through this year. And I think there's also just an unknown of what happens. You got Moses definitely back, and preseason wise, you've got a new coach. You've got a lot of changes in that team. I think people are just it's a hesitancy. Watch this space with him.
100%. Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes down to making sure Moses is on the field as well, because then Dylan Brown can play his natural role, which is a lot more running and things like that. And then his Supercoach game definitely becomes a lot more viable and appealing to all us Supercoach players, because let's face it, last year when he was playing halfback, chosen by Brad Arthur for a lot of that time, he simply wasn't, and he looked so out of place in that position. It wasn't funny to still have that average. I still think he had a decent Supercoach year considering, but yeah, he's not a viable option. Let's talk about the man pictured though, Mitchell Moses. We've got the question there: does Moses need the goal kicking to be an option? Me personally, I actually do think he needs this to be an option, but I'm interested to see what your boys' thoughts are regarding this one. Put your hands up. Go ahead. First in gets the tackle.
That's it. Yeah, I think he needs kicking. I think that extra 15 to 20 on a good game is massive for him because, like when he's not on, like his floor is quite low, and we've all seen it. It's not going to happen often, but like there is 20s and 30s in his game occasionally, and it's not what you want out of a halfback that can kick. It's just too low. He just doesn't have it. Obviously, he's got the big games in him. I've always looked at Moses as an option in Supercoach, and I've always been a bit keen on the idea of it. And then I thought, you're sort of on the fence because you just don't know what kind of game you're going to get out of him. When he's in form, I think he's a great pick, and I think if he loses the goal kicking to Lomax, he's going to have to make up that loss in the kicking in some attacking stats. But the thing is, like, he'll have Lomax there to convert these things. So there's a chance that his average is actually going to be quite good. He's going to have a good year out of it if he stays fit. Everything goes well for the Eels in general. The goal kicking will be a bonus. I think with an attacking outlet like Lomax, from what you saw Hunt could do with him, I think Moses can utilize Lomax probably better than, which is crazy because the pair of them last year were insane together and the amount of tries they scored. But I think just Moses has a bit more about him, and if he can keep the kicking, it can push him. It can really elevate him into that top tier if he can hold it. But yeah, it just depends. I don't see him keeping it. I think Lomax is too good of a kicker. But again, like, it's not to say he's a bad one. They got a good headache to have.
Trav?
7.
How many fingers am I holding up?
I was going to say the podcast listeners don't know that, so
No, that's why I'm asking. How many fingers am I holding up?
7.
7. I'm pretty sure I just counted Jesse say if 7 times. Now, that's why I don't want Moses, because there's just so many ifs. Just so many ifs.
That's sensational from you.
God.
We feature in the ratings and you bring those out.
If he kicks it to Lomax, if he gets the minutes, if he stays healthy, if Dylan Brown's there's so many ifs, and I just don't want to play with that right now at 650K. And to be honest, I sent you a photo with Moses in my team. And I had the dual half, and I had 2 halfbacks, and I instantly changed that straight after a conversation, and I put him to DCE and went back to a rookie. I just didn't like it. Just did not like it. So, at the moment, I love Mitch Moses. I really do. I really enjoyed what he did in Origin. Bloody hell, he did so good in Origin last year, and he played so well in the international series. I really like him as a player, but at this point in time, there are just too many ifs, and I'm not keen on that until I see what goes on.
I'll tell you what, it's a very early watch because obviously that Storm first game, we all know the Storm record. We'll go into that a lot more as we get closer to that round. The Dogs, the defensive efforts, if it's continued on to this year, it's not ideal. Manly away is not nice either. So it's definitely, you get probably a 4-week window to just see how that partnership with Lomax is going to go, the goal kicking, making sure his body's right, making sure that combination with Dill Brown is working. And then you can maybe make some plays. But keep in mind, again, Origin at play. Cleary will probably get named halfback, but I do think if everyone's fit, Moses might edge out Lua for the 5/8 spot for now just because of what he did do last year. I simply think he has to have a jersey. So if you're thinking in the back of your mind, I might pick up Moses around like the round 8 and he'll cover me over buys, Origin and stuff, then I don't think that'd be a good play because I think he will be playing Origin if he is fit. So, Jesse, anything else to add?
No, not really at all, to be honest.
Yeah. 5'8", that was just Dylan Brown at the moment. So, already covered him more than enough. And we don't think it changes even if you have him 5'8". It is that dual option.
Joel, just on that point that you were saying around the buys, Para has the buy in round 8, and then they've got the buy in 15, and then the buy in 18. So you're waiting till well after that to get him.
Yeah,
it's too many.
So hopefully a timing and run to the finals. How good would that be, Blue and Gold Army? We can only hope. Into the center wings, a few little discussions to have here. Jordan Semrani, a Bulldogs signing, 198K, same as Richard Penasini, who had last year off with a horrible knee injury, 198K. There is a bit of tips around at the first game or so when Josh Adokar is out, he might get the spot. Who's unsure there. Hayes Dunster, 214. Jake Tungo, 281K. Sean Russell, 371. Bailey Simonson, 447K. Josh Adokar, the new signing, 542K. Will Penasini, 575K. And Zach Lomax, 773K. Boys, first up, the talking point, Lomax, the big one in this huge signing from the Dragons, star signing. Does Lomax go a 79 average or more in 2025? Let's tackle that question first. Trav, does Lomax go 79 average or more?
No. Simple
Jesse.
answer, no.
No, I don't believe so.
Go ahead, Trav. Give me some detail about Lomax.
Well, so we know he's got, well, all the talk and all the hype, and I said to you, I'm all about the hype, right? And all the hype is that he's going to play center, not the wing. And as soon as he put his name on the center, and that's what he's put up, I've lost interest. I think he loses all his ability to like, he's an amazing kick receiver, right? And the meters that he can get off those kicks in terms of from the fullback just adds everything to him, with the opportunity and ability to be able to break lines and things once it's kicked to him out on the wings. He's going to lose as a center. The Moses kick to Lomax on the wing is lost because he's at center. I just, all the things that I know Lomax can do, that I've watched him do as a winger, he loses as a center, and I am not interested in Lomax for that reason at all.
Jesse, anything further to add?
No, not particularly. Just about that. Like, he does. I just don't know why he doesn't want to stay on the wing. I can't work that out.
Easier for him too, isn't it? Easier.
You would think so. He doesn't have to do as much to work defensively. He gets all the flashy tries, which he can catch a friggin' ball out of anywhere. He's got Moses going to be putting it on a tee for him, which they did in Origin. Like, everything is there. Just stay on the wing. You had your best year ever by a fair margin, and you just don't want to do it anymore. I can't make sense of it. He's got a career average of 61 as a center. You put him in 1 year on the wing, and he's almost 80. Like, that's too much of a drop that he's going to potentially get to be priced at 770 to start. I need to see a lot out of him in the centers if that's going to be the case, and that's with the goal kicking too at a 60. So yeah, I don't know. I just can't work him out. He's better off on the wing, surely. I think it's going to happen.
It's as a fan, it's frustrating because, as you've all mentioned, we've seen how good his year was last year. And when you signed him, you're excited about that. And then you quickly realize, oh, hang on, we're not getting that version of Zach Lomax, because I've been critical. I don't think he defensively, and this obviously doesn't really matter too much to, or I guess missed tackles it does. I think his reads in that in defense are really poor. He's very, very poor defensively. And like you said, wing, you don't need to make as many decisions defensively like that are key and things like that. So I think the kicking, I think Moses can still work with him in attack. I think he can still put the high balls up. Lomax can charge through at center. We've seen Turbo do that in Origin. So I do think that's not necessarily a bad thing. And Moses likes to put those 3-quarter kicks in that are behind the opposition halfback. So Lomax coming in on that angled run, I think can score a number of tries that way. So I do see that combination working a few times. It's just, the question is, can it be enough? This Parramatta side hasn't shown much for 2 years now. Can they all of a sudden turn it around and become this sort of attacking juggernaut in a way and score these points and make sure and ensure that Lomax is reaching that sort of heights? I'm not sure yet. I don't think so. And I'm just very interested that it's a huge, like, obviously this is all reports. I'm hoping Jason Rolls has sat down with him and said, mate, there's still a very realistic possibility you're starting on the wing for me this year. Like, you're the second best winger in the comp, challenging To'o after last year to be the best winger in the comp. To'o's just done it consistently and is. You've got to have that conversation. Go, mate, you are literally making the Australian team as a winger. Be a winger. Like, swallow your pride for a bit and just be a winger. You're that good on the wing. It's not funny. I don't get it. But anyway,
yeah.
Any other team, any other personnel any options here at center wing for you boys?
Not for me.
Not at those prices, unfortunately.
No one I'm watching.
Me
No.
either.
No.
Final one, the fullback. So Joash Papali'i, 198k, and Isaiah Iongi, fullback, 232k. Neither of them have any duels whatsoever. It's just straight out fullback. I want to ask a quick question first. Is this the first time we've ever seen a team start the season with two fullbacks and the highest price you'll have to pay for that is 232? That's insane.
Surely. Maybe Buller.
I think that's...
Buller would have come in a bit.
West Tigers with Buller?
I think it would have been 204. It would have been 204. Surely, I think.
He would have had someone else ahead of him, though, which would have been like a 400 or 500 payout.
Well, Dane Laurie
was
wasn't
Staines there yet? Staines was a fullback back then, wasn't it? Dane Laurie? Dane Laurie was there? Or Mbai, maybe? Like, I think this might be a record. Like, let us know in the comments, Supercoaches. Sangster, I know you watch. Let us know. Go into the archives of Supercoach. Let us know. But there's a question up here. Obviously, Iongi, is he a must-start ? And then where? I think where you both are wanting to go with this question is obviously he can only be chosen as fullback or the flex. And I think you both want to explain maybe how to play this and where to possibly play it if you are putting Iongi in your team.
Take it away,
Trav. So currently by the Supercoach post a couple of days ago, I think it was, he's owned in the team picker at 63%. So once that opens up, I think the world's going to be all over him. He's going to be one of the most, if not the most owned player in the competition in Supercoach. I currently don't have him because I've now been able to work it so that I've got 3 fullbacks in those positions. I have been very high on Iongi as to start in the flex. I would not start him as my second fullback. I would start him as a flex. Because then I can guarantee I'm going to get my 2 fullback scores by having a fullback and the rookie and the reserve put onto the fullback. So that's where I would put him. I wouldn't be putting Iongi in the fullback. So to answer the question of where, that's where I would go. Do I think he's a must start? No. And it's funny for me to say because I've said previously that here's an opportunity for the first time in a long time, other than Buller, but even Buller wasn't. Buller was a short-term, really quick cash grab that made a crap load of money that we've got that we can get an opportunity to make that sort of money. But I just don't. The reason why I say it's that I must start is because I think the first 5 games is a difficult run. I think there's so many ifs, which we covered so well with the Moses position. It's a new coach. It's a new dawn at Para, and let's be honest, it is. It's a new dawn for them. It's a new culture change. I just don't think Iongi at this point in time is a must start. I will preface that with he probably ends up in my team as the Supercoach app as we go. But at this point, I've been able to work it for 3. But that's remembering that we're still waiting a lot and doing a lot of work around what our cheapies are. And currently, I've got some cheapies there that I've never even heard of, so that I can get those positions. So once I start to hear where those cheapies come from and who they are and what their prices are, I have a feeling I'm going to have to try and find an Iongi that's going to start. But yeah, at this point, to answer that question, I don't think he is a must start.
Jesse, anything to add?
Yeah. I feel like he kind of is in a way. Obviously, we have the flex. We've had the opportunity now to get essentially what we hope is really good fullback money for nothing. At 232, there's not really anyone better at his price in the cheapie bracket yet that's emerged. And that's all providing that, Iongi is the fullback. Because, it could very well be Joash. Like, he could be the guy too. We really don't know. And that would be even better because he's a bit cheaper. Not by a lot, but, you're talking basement, the floor of the price point in Supercoach at the moment at 198. We don't have a lot of stats to work off. Obviously, they haven't played, but we do have some good reserve grade stats. And with Iongi, obviously we've got the games to reference off last year where he played, I think, what was it, 147 average. In 2024, in the reserve grade, he averaged 53.3. 2023 averaged 65 in 24 games each season. So 2 24-game seasons, 65 and a 53. If that can half translate over, it's guaranteed money, and that's pretty much the whole point of him. And then the same thing with Josh Papali'i too. You put him into that bracket as well at a fullback, he's going to be getting, I think, roughly around the same. Yeah, in 52, average 52 and 54. So they're very similar what they can do. They're both playing out of the fullback spot. They're a good option. The flex is open. Like it's going to be that thing. If you're going to go guns, if you're just going to stack points and you're going to go 3 fullbacks or an extra halfback or something, and you cater your side around it, fair enough. I feel like there's every world I just start with Iongi as far as it goes anyway, providing his team list, and just try and make some money. I have built many 3 fullback sides at the moment too, and they don't look too bad. So it could be just dependent on what other cashies actually look like they're going to start as to where we go with him. But there's money to be made, like regardless, and I think that's the priority to begin with. So that's why I would start with him for sure.
Joel, something hit me just before that you said, Joel, where you said that they're talking about Joash. There's talk about Joash being the 14. Does this, when you said that, all I instantly went straight to this point and went, does this scream alarm bells for Iongi? Do you think Iongi is locked in for 80 minutes, or do you think this screams like a 50, 60 minute type position and Joash jumps in? What do you think?
I don't believe so. I think what it is the Eels finally have signed 2 very good young guns for the first time in a long time. And they want to fit them both in. They are so huge on Isaiah Iongi. It's ridiculous. Like the praise that they're heaping on him, it's next level. They've got no doubt in their minds that they've signed an absolute gun who's going to be there for years to come and establish himself as a really, really good fullback in this competition. I know the number for that game last year, that 47 for Supercoach, isn't great, but NRL stats, if you went back and looked at that game, he was extremely busy. So it could have been one of those games where it all of a sudden quickly turned into an 80 or 90 point if a pass went his way or things like that. So, and I think on that game, he actually didn't like bomb a try, but he knocked on close to the line or something like that. So it could have easily been a try in that stats as well. So the 47 doesn't look great. People go, oh, it's only really a 47 is, but it was a very, very busy sort of game for him. He's notoriously a very busy fullback as well. So that, again, if he can turn up in the right places and Moses has those line breaks and that, and he can be the one that's getting that inside ball to go under the sticks, great option. Joash, again, I think he's really impressed in the preseason so far, to the point where Riles and the club are basically saying we need to put him in the team somehow. And that looks like it's going to be a 14 role. He's got a little bit of size to him as well. So I think he'll be able to handle the front line quite well. And again, it's going to be good to have a bit of coverage for the back line. So he's not just there to be like a hooker, but the club's noted that it needs to have some more coverage in the backs. We've really haven't had that much when it comes to our bench. And Joash will now, being a 14, will have that. He'll be able to go on if we lose a center, a winger, a fullback, and play those sorts of roles. So I think that's more so where they're going with that.
Good insight.
Iongi will be an 80-minute player, I believe.
Okay.
So
good insight.
That's where I'm at now. What I'll quickly ask you, Jesse, before we go to the next team, is there a world, and I'm just tossing out this idea on the spot here, where you wait on Iongi, you go before the first cash rise, where most people use that extra trade. You go like a fullback with a better run that first couple of weeks and try and make it work, obviously financially, which is going to be hard because Iongi is so cheap. But is that realistically, could that be a play? You do wait just to see where things are panning out. As we said, there's a few ifs around Iongi and just where he fits in, with Moses being so dominant. Brown's normally so dominant in this team as well when things are going right. They'll have Lomax, who will be now a dominant player as well. There is a realistic world when you think about it where Iongi is almost the 4th or 5th choice. In theory, it sounds great having that a bit more speed in the back line, but really, there's a lot of threats.
Yeah, there is. I think if you're going to be planning to trade to Iongi in round 4, it's a lot of money. Like, you're going to have to find 400 to 600k difference between the two initially when you build your side that you'll get back. But like, what's that going to do to your team? I suppose you can use it in a way to drop one of your 3 guns, depending on which one you aren't liking in the first 3 rounds. It is quite early, I think, to chop a fullback out. I don't think you really get a chance to actually see what they're about by round 3. But it is a massive cash injection if you want to just start boosting away from round 4 onwards. To get him in your side, providing, yes, he does look like he's making money, he looks good. I'm more confident to have him in my team now and run with him as my flex. Plus, I'd take the 600k. Like, that's a perfect scenario. But again, like that round 1 team, that's a lot of money to lose if your plan is to just not to just trade for him, in 3 rounds, providing it goes well. So, like, I see the merit in it. I also see the merit in having 3 good fullbacks. So, like, that could be an option in itself. If the third fullback that you're looking to have is like a Pap or a Hammer or something, and they're that 650, and they just look off the mark, then that's a quick 400k, and you can really, really change your side quite easily with 400k in round 4. Like, it's a lot to work with. So, yes, but yeah, see, it's safer. It's safer to do that than it is to have a Yongi and have him shit the bed and be like, how on earth do I get away from a 230? Potentially, by the time his cash rise comes, he won't be averaging 23. Like, surely he gets at least 40, 50 between things. He'll make some money regardless. So you're going to be able to get off him for some price. Maybe not the amount that you might want, but it could be very difficult if it does go wrong. So yeah.
That's sort of where I'm thinking. I'm just sort of in my head. I'm trying to just think: is it easier to either get onto Iongi or is it easier to get off Iongi? And I think early on, it's definitely easier to get onto Iongi. It feels like, because if, let's say, theoretically he gets, we don't want to put this on a player, he gets injured after 2 rounds or something, you're going to be almost screwed to go ahead and then fix up to get to someone, because really I think a lot of reason why people are going to Iongi is obviously the money, which equivalates to he's going to be averaging hopefully a 50 odd, and that'd be great points to have, overtaking our lowest scoring player each and every week. Yeah.
Well, I suppose if he does get injured, then you would imagine that Papali'i comes in and you can afford him regardless because he's cheaper.
Yeah.
So there's an option. There's always an option. They kind of do present themselves, randomly throughout the season too. So, he just opens up so many doors. We've got an extra position to fill, but he's so cheap that you basically aren't having to worry about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's it for Parramatta. Again, let us know all your questions and stuff in YouTube comments, podcast comments. Join the LOI Legends group, $2.99 a month. If you've got anything further to add from this podcast that we haven't touched on, or you simply just want to give us your feedback and your options and reasons why you think a player that we haven't spoken about is an option or perhaps not an option. Next up, the Cronulla Sharks. Few little players talking about, none other than the man pictured will be once again a huge talking point around the Supercoach world in Mr. Nico Hines. But the first 5 rounds here, so the Vegas game against the Penrith Panthers in round 1. Again, we haven't got anyone that sponsored us so far to actually take us over there, pay for us, and we'll put some content in for you guys, but just waiting for that DM to arrive and go, you know what, Mr. Abdo or someone has gone, you know what, you guys are now in the rankings. We'll get you over to Vegas. So we'll see what happens. Round 2, the Cowboys away. Round 3, the Rabbits at home. Round 4, the Dogs at home. And round 5, the Raiders away. Again, all the talking points are on the screen. We will get to them as we go. First up, the Hookers. Jaden Beryl, 232K. Blake Brayley, 519K. Cam McInnes, 2RF dual, 585K. Mr. Bayes tackle his heart out. You know what you're going to get from McInnes. It's probably about a 58 every week. And that's just literally what you get. First up, question there, time to set and forget Mr. Blake Brayley. He was sort of the undercover, I guess, in a way, underrated sort of Supercoach player last year. He just went along, did what he did, consistently scored, and you literally didn't have to trade him once because he played pretty much the entire year. He played the whole season, 24 games. So it was a great pick, average 53. So I guess in that position, you pretty much took that. You would have gone, yep, sweet, no worries. Didn't have to waste a trade, got some solid points, and away we go. He's basically every week, almost an 80-minute hooker as well, which is a great thing. Is there time we start to put a bit more respect on Brayley's name, or is it simply a thing because we're trying to save some money, guys, and there's some few other options elsewhere where just Brayley's not in the picture at the moment, possibly can be as easy as 6-7 rounds into it?
I find him very overlooked. He never really comes into discussion. He never gets injured. He never plays Origin. He always plays 80. There's no reason to not consider him. He's my favourite 500k hooker at the moment by far. I've looked more and more into starting with him. I think between his base of, basically 50, his upside of potentially up around the 80s when he gets, an assist, and with Fanua Blake coming into the picture as well, being able to play that first ball off to him, more than likely Fanua Blake's going to score a few tries off the service that Brayley will do. I really like it. I really, really do. If I'm going to spend up on hooker, I'm not going to go higher than him. I think I'll go to him and just go, thank you very much. And he's that guy that providing everything, providing he doesn't get injured, I don't think there's ever a reason to get off him, especially in that hooker position. So I like it a lot. And I'm trying to find a way to make it happen, but I keep going back to the cheap hookers because it just works. So yeah,
I have toyed with the idea a couple of teams as well. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Trav,
I like it.
Thoughts around Bradley? You've been a big fan of him last year.
I was. Yep, I was. And I am, and he's in my team. And I'm actually very happy about that. I said so many times in the podcast last year. I said so many times in our off group chats. I said a couple of times when we had our Hamfest in December last year. This man needs to be my starting hooker. I made 4 or 5 teams and never had him in there. My last one I did, and I love it. I'm so keen for it. I'm just so over the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of the hooker role that just doesn't score you points. The only other hooker I really, really wanted was Robson, and I can't afford him because of these. He's over 600k. Jesse hit the nail on the head. He's 506. He's 519, so he's in the fight. He's a 500k. He's going to get 53. I'm happy to have, I'm happy to have a 40 one week, and I'm happy to have a 60 to 80 the next week, and then drop back a 40. I don't care. I don't want to look at it. I just want to sit there and go, yep, that's what I've got. That's where it's at. That's what I'm having. One of Jesse's favorite sayings is meat and potato, right? Meat and potato. This is your prime person for that. Like he is just going to go and do his job, not complain about it. He's going to lock that down. He's not going to make mistakes. He's not going to bomb out and get you a terrible score. And he's got a potential for an 80 or so, which is a great score for a hooker. He's in my team. I'm very happy about that. And I actually think that 53 average that he's got is going to be, I think he'll improve it by 2 to 3 points this year with the AFB signing. I think Jesse just said that perfectly. He's that first receiver is just going to be really nice, particularly on the goal line. I think the Sharks are going to be down on that goal line a lot. AFB is going to be the first one. They've signed him to a big deal. He's going to be the first one that's going to get there. Brayley's going to be the one that's grabbing it out of the play of the ball. I think he's going to improve.
The more and more I think about it, the more and more I am getting anxious about having the 2 hooker scenario, just because of the stress that's going to come with it and the amount that they need to make to hopefully go to one of these sorts of players that then I can just sit and wait with. Again, the risk of injuries and stuff like that, and being stuck with some of those cheap guys, it is stressful. I'm happy to have one. Brayley, by the day for mine at the moment, is becoming more and more of a very appealing option that I just want to set and forget. Don't think about it, as sort of Travis rightly said, and just go, yep, sweet, let's go, move on. And then find ways to muck around my other team, hope the cheapie that I end up picking at this stage, probably Sandon Smith maybe, or put him down to halfback and stick with Mamazulis. But yeah, I'm every day that goes by, I'm trying to find ways to fit Brayley in because I just love the feeling. And as you've all said so far, AFB going there is huge for him. Simply getting that extra try assist that he hasn't really had just by that AFB close to the line will be huge.
Yep, definitely.
Cam McInnes is. We're going to mention Cam McInnes is again. You talk meat and veg, meat and potatoes. That is literally the definition. Cam McInnes. He's a 600 odd more than Brayley. 60 odd more. Sorry, than Brayley. I'll just not.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, I don't know. I really like McInnes as a player. I think he's
Yeah.
really solid. I think he's just he's a warrior, and it shows by his face. It's copped many of floggings, but 2RF hook is nice. 585. I don't know. It doesn't really excite me too much. I think it just depends on the minutes. It's all minutes rotation stuff out of him now. They got AFB in there. Does he get more? Does he get the same? Where does he play? He's very consistent. He's very reliable, but he's not got a great deal of upside. And for 600k in both 2RF and hooker, I've got other options that I'd probably lean into a bit more than him. And for that, unfortunately, he just doesn't really, fall into play. I just don't think he's very viable.
No, I agree. FRF. Let's get into the big boys. Jesse. I always struggle with this bloke.
Calhoun.
There you go. 2RF duel as well, 232k. So we're in the ratings, guys. Can't even pronounce the names properly. Mr. Tapua, 235k. Braden Hemlin Ueli, 304k. Oregon Kafusi, 418. Toby Rudolph, 429. Tommy Hazleton, 516. And Aden Fanua Blake, the huge signing for the Sharkies, 706k. And there's many, many people out there going, I'll just gobble it up, set with him, and off we go. The question we've posed is AFB going to another level? Jesse, what do you think? AFB, I think he's probably the only realistic option here, if I'm right in saying to start. So talk to us. AFB, is he on your radar?
He's sort of on my radar. I don't think he does go to another level. I think his level was pretty well met when he was at the Warriors. I don't think how much more he can really do. He's scoring 11 tries back-to-back seasons.
He's
so
human.
yeah, it's quite a lot. It's a lot to hold on to. So he had a good deal of service. Wade Egan is pretty generous when it comes to the distribution. I think Brayley's very similar with what he can do there. He obviously had Sean Johnson to play with as well. You got Nico Hines, you got Trindle, to a lesser extent. He's got a quality side. Like, he's not going down in the team. I don't know about the minutes. The Sharks forwards will play 40 minutes, 45 tops. You know what I mean? Like, there's no one there that gets 60. So he's a 60-minute guy, 65. Like, he plays the long minutes. He's always up for a run. He's there for the tries. So look, if they keep the same task for him, if the whole point is like you're getting Fanua Blake for Fanua Blake, not to fit the Sharks system, then I can't see him really going backwards as long as he can keep scoring, 10 plus tries in a season. It's very hard to do. So I expect a bit of a dip, slightly, probably sitting in the mid 60s because he's 72. Like, he's very high, but again, like, he could very well be a 70-point scoring guy again. But it's all about the tries and the minutes, and I'm just very interested to see how he goes in that team. There is no doubt the quality of Fanua Blake. He could go there with the intention of, like, I'm going to sweep the floor here, step aside, and then we go, holy shit, we need to get onto AFB again because we don't start with him ever, and we always get punished by round 6, and he scored 4 tries already. So it's a very, very close watch for me, like very, very close. I'm super keen to see. I guarantee I'll have him at some point. Don't know about starting. I just want to see them use him properly, and I don't think it'll be long before he's hitting massive tons again. Definitely not.
I think the realistic point here as well is the fact that there's a few fairly cheaper options that we feel like, especially early, can do similar to what AFB will do early. It just sort of makes that decision a little bit easier to not start with him. But Trav, he was an absolute freak last year. Is another level too much to ask?
Nah, not on that Sharks team, not at all. Jesse, if AFB doesn't get at least 60 minutes or at least 55 minutes and scores around 40, I think I'll be calling even more so for the bloody coach's head than me wanting Hines to go to fullback. Like, what a dumb freaking move that would be. It to have this superstar player at FRF. You've just signed him. You've enticed him from his home. To come and play for you. You're giving him 60. He averaged 60 for the Warriors. He averaged 60 for the Warriors last year. Like, you're playing him. Last year he scored 1, 2, 3 games under 45. So 3 games he scored under 45. They were 34 or 37. 37 against Penrith, a 34 against the Gold Coast, where he only played 49 minutes. And a 43 against Newcastle, where he only played 44 minutes. Other than that, like, he was huge. His scores are 50s, 60s, and above. Like, there's everything points to me to go that he will get better again, and I think he's got at least another 1 or 2 points even more in him. I think those 10 tries that you said he scored last year, I think is easily attainable on this Sharks team. The Sharks team score a shitload. Like, they're a scoring machine. They will be on the line. They will be in those positions all the time. AFB will get better, and he will be the first receiver on so many runs, particularly on the goal line. He's so big. He's just a monster, man. Like, and he's just, I think he's got even more potential to be even better.
Fair.
However, how do you afford him? Yeah. However, how do you afford him at 706K? There are some great options in May, in Tino, in Haas, even at just over 600K, that are not going. I don't think they average as much as AFB, but I think they give you the opportunity to rise a little bit in points to get to AFB at some point.
Yeah.
No,
that's fair.
I think that's a fair point to finish with AFBs. We're not saying never. We're saying try and time it and get to it at a certain point, because, again, not impacted by Origin, doesn't play Origin either at that sort of time. Awesome. Just time it, find a way to hopefully May or Tino can get up there. But at the same time, if Tino and May are doing well, you almost don't want to get rid of them either.
Exactly.
It's going to be an interesting one to get by.
At least Tino's a jewel, and you can get all 3 if you want to.
That's it.
That'd be very, very handy. 2RF for the Sharkies. So a couple of really cheap options there. I don't think are to play. Dylan Coates and Mr. Puru. Jesse's mate is the jewel we've already spoken about as well. Billy Burns, 337. Sia Talakai, 2RF, and centre wing jewel, 449. Teague Wilkin, 551K. We've already mentioned Cam McInnes with his duel at hooker, and Britton Nakora, 682K. Mr. Nakora, there is the question raised here: is he the most underrated Supercoach player currently? Boys, yes or no? We know how to start these ones. Trav, is he the most underrated Supercoach player?
Yeah, I'm calling him. He is. Yep, 100%. I'll answer the question with that and see what Jesse says, and then we'll have a chat.
I need to really I need to dive into so many other players that are so good. I'm going to say he's right up there. He's in the mix for sure. Like, no one is talking Nakora, and at some point, everyone has Nakora because he's a gun. He's so overlooked as well. There's so many guys in this Shark side that you just don't consider until they're punishing you, and you go, I better get them. And he's one of them, big time. You just look at last year, even the year before, the last 2 seasons, he's been in that bracket of elite second row forwards. Elite, top tier, can score tries, can break tackles, line breaks, assists, just everything. You can do it all. Yeah, I like it. And again, I'm in the same boat. I haven't really looked into putting him in my side. I'm leaning more towards the Katoas and Olakauatus myself, but I have him every year at some point. I do. I have him every single year.
Yeah.
Don't know why I'm not.
I think he's one of the best. Or actually, no, he's not one of. I think he's the best whole running back rower in the competition. And that often equivalates to Supercoach for line breaks, to tries. So I guess he's He definitely is right up there, if not the most underrated player, I guess. He does it so consistently as well. A lot does impact by that man on screen, where he does play, what side of the field he will play. They have a bit of a combination they've brewed up over time. Trav, anything else to add on these 2RF or any detail on Nakora?
Yeah, so he's my most underrated Supercoach player at the moment for the last couple of years. No one ever thinks about him. Jesse, you just said it. No one thinks about him, right? So at the moment, when you're talking 2RF, who are we talking about? Crichton, yeah, but we can't afford him. So, well, who's next? We've got to get him. He's consistent. We've got to get him. Eli Katoa, he's a monster. Kulamatangi, Ola Kawatu. And, then you've gone past him. We've literally gone past him to players, right? And then you go Hopgoat. Now we're starting to talk about Carrigan and Bath. Then you've got all these dudes that have now gone past Dicker, and you're sitting there going, and then you look at the Sharks list, and it's, there's this dude named Nicker. He averaged 69 last year. He also averaged 69 the year before that. He played 22 games. He's a freak. He's so underrated. No one owns him. So last year, he was 4% owned in round 12, 4.7 in 13, 4.7 in 4.8 in 15, and in round 17 he ballooned out to 13, right? Owned by third. So right up until round 15, he was still only in 4.8% of teams. He was averaging 60 at that time, finished the season with 69. But how's that not underrated? It's just so underrated yet. And we all sit here and we get to the middle of the season. We go, we've got to freaking get Nicker, about how and where and what do I do? I remember we talked about this, Jesse, in the first podcast that I was doing with you. I got to get Nicker in. How do I do it? And then we're sitting there trying to play our teams to get him in. I think people just need to start to really put some respect on this dude. He's a gun. He's so good. He's 682. He can fit. If you're getting Ola Kawatu, you're getting these guys. You look at that roster, that draw. Okay, that's a hard game against Penrith in the first round, but it's in Vegas, right? So it's different. This is not the Penrith at home or the Penrith in Australia. This is Penrith in Vegas in a game that the refs are going to be a bit more lenient. The ground is shorter. It's going to be faster. It's more scoring. It's got to be a spectacle to keep it interesting. So this is and who's going to be one of the better ones to run those lines and do those things? Nickera. Then he's got the Cowboys. Then he's got the Rabbits. Look, the Dogs are a tough one, but it's at home, and we all expect the Sharks to be a big team this year. And then he's got the Raiders. So he's just got such a really good start to the year, in my opinion. We got to put some respect on this fella's name.
Yeah, well, just on him as well. I think it was round 15 where I got him in last year because pretty much his price had bottomed out. We were all looking forward to
570.
It was just there's the floor, there's the price tag. Let's jump on him. From round 15 to the end of the year, he averaged 81. It was huge. So he definitely had a better end of the year than pretty much from the midway through to the back half and the way that he finished. It was astronomical scores. 79, 92, 96. There was another 96, 98, 137. That's a lot to do there in 12 games. So it's just, can he do it at the beginning of the year? You're looking at his numbers there. There's a lot around the 50s, a lot around the 60s. And again, it's not bad. When you're spending that much, you kind of want a little bit more. But when he has it in him and he just gets on a roll and then it doesn't stop. That's the thing. Once he's found that stride, it doesn't stop until the season ends. And again, is it a time your run kind of pick, or is it a worthy start? Do you just make him your premium second rower? It's a massive question. Not many people. Massive pod. No one's doing it. I can assure you, when the numbers come out and the app's fully open, you look at his ownership stats and they're going to be less than 5%. Certain they'll be less than 5. So big pod, big potential.
Do I dare ask, is there anyone else on this 2RF list that you boys are interested in?
No.
Nope. Not really.
Didn't think I needed to ask that one at all. But yeah, there you go. Look, Nakora, if you do start with him, you want that early pod play, I don't think you're going to go wrong. I think that's been very, very clearly covered by the boys. Halfback position, Riley Pollard, 198K. Braden Trindle, halfback /5'8" dual, 553K. And Nico Hines pictured there with the guns on display as well, might I add, 735K. There is rumors going around about these two that have obviously been put into this category that I'm hearing Trindle will be the halfback, Hines will be the 5'8". That's what I'm hearing. That's the whispers I've heard. Who knows? Fitzgibbon has been quite stubborn, it feels like, with that. But if we look back to, I think those 2 finals games, if that's anything to go by, that basically started to happen. I think Trindle took more ownership of the team, and Hines definitely played a backward step, and he was criticised for that a lot. But yeah, I think he's lost his spark at halfback in a way for an NRL point of view. Halfback wise, we talk about the year and he's been average at best, and he pulled out a 75. So again, we talk about these players who we feel like in an NRL point of view had a very bad year, but he's had a 75.1. Now the question on the screen is, Hines a 735k bargain or a trap? Here we go, boys. You know what to do. I'm going to start with Jesse this time. Is he a bargain or a trap at 735k?
I like his price for what he can do. I really, really do. 735 for Hines any other year would be like
bargain or trap.
Give me bargain. 735k for Hines is a bargain for what he can do. Going off that 75 average that he did get last year, you can break it in half, because in the first, from round 1 to 11, he averaged 98.8. Typical Nico Hines fashion. Gun. Locked in. He was 1.1 mil. I held on to him. I lost it all. From round 12, basically round 15, essentially, from when he actually come back and played the next 6 games, he averaged 56.2. Now, do you put that down to Trindle? Do you put it down to post-origin blues? Do you put it down to the injury? I don't know. There's too many factors there to see, and he's a very much like a mental player. Like, when he's down in the dumps, it shows more than anyone else that you can watch in the NRL. I think he's the most sensitive player to that kind of thing, and it really does does really play on his game. And once he, has a bad run, it freaking doesn't go away, and it just hinders him every single game, and he gets more and more criticism, and then it just escalates and it snowballs and it makes him worse, and then it's just like, fuck, you've just killed Hines. It's not good. So yeah, I'm just hopeful that another season, a fresh start, a bit more clarity around the position. Obviously, the combination was a bit new, that he goes back to it. But I don't know whether we see the 160s anymore. I think that time has passed a bit. So 735, he needs to hit a 70. He's very much the player that can breathe his way to a 70-point average. Because, again, that average is skewed quite a lot between a 98 and a 50. I think he's on the money. I think he's on the money. I think 73, 75, it's kind of what he'll do. I hope for more.
So, bargain or a trap? What are you locking in?
Well, it's neither. I don't think he's a trap. I don't think 735k is a bargain anymore for him. I think it's what his price is. I think it's where he's going to be pretty much projected for and what he's going to hit. He might have massive games. He might have down games. But I think if the side is going to be the same way as it was last season, I don't see how it can get any better for him.
Trav, is Hines a 735k bargain or trap?
He's a trap. Trap City, bro. Trap City. Get away from it and don't even bother. You like my little rap? Anyone that wants to get in it, record that, put it on a meme. I'm happily start posting it in our socials, because he is a trap. So you talked to all those stats, right? So, and they're all fantastic. Jesse, you're a freaking freak, right? But all of those stats you spoke about, right, is what position was he playing?
Halfback.
Yeah, he's not playing halfback this year. So, would you pay 735 for a 5'8"?
I did last year.
You did last year? You're not doing it this year, though, are you?
Not yet.
You're not doing it this year, are you?
No, not at this stage. I can say I'm not.
So it's a trap. It's a trap. 100%. Done.
Yeah, but he's a goal kicking. He's going to goal kick. He's Nico Hines. Like, I've got a soft spot for him, to be fair. So I might be looking at it with
rose. I love him, and I love him too, mate. I do. I've been nothing but all over his well-being. I feel like he needs to. There's some serious things that people need to do for him. I think there's big things that club needs to do for him. The guy's an absolute god. I think he's just a wonderful, beautiful human being. What he does for the Indigenous, I love him. I freaking love him. And I think the Sharks need to do a hell of a lot more to support him. And putting him at 5'8" as a start, but I still think that's not his right position. I still think he should go to fullback, and that would make a huge difference. But whilst he's playing if he's playing 5'8" at 735K, that's a trap for me. That screams a 45. Well, it screams anywhere from 50 to 60 average. At 735K, you're losing a lot of money. That's not happening for me as a 5'8".
If he plays in the 6 and he's on the left, then he's going to be playing with Mulatalo, Kyle Iro, Teague Wilton. Like it's a nice side to be on, attacking wise.
Yeah, but he's not going to be the final pass, right? He's not going to be that try assist. He's not going to get that line break. It'll be he'll set it up and then move it to the next one. They'll be the ones that finish.
That won't be Will Kennedy. No way. It'll be Nico Hines.
They still give it to the halfback. The try assist will still go to him, even if he's not the last pass. Like the try contributions are going to go to whoever else is in the middle.
But I just don't think that'll happen for him. Not with that edge, even though that edge is a monstrous edge, and we're going to talk about it in a sec.
You're talking Mulatalo's edge. That's points. That has to be points.
Supercoach they do love Nico. They find ways to make sure Nico has points. I remember a couple of times last year where like Nico had a horrible game, and you then look at his score. You're thinking, oh, here we go. Let's look at this score. And he's just pulled out like an 80 or something. Like it's ridiculous. So
but as a halfback, it's different. This is different. He's going to be a whole different position. He's going to have.
But what I'm saying, whether it's halfback or not, he's still had a horrible game.
Nico Hines is the best ghost point scorer in the competition for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure everyone knows we're not sitting by the campfire after about 12 drinks where the boys are telling each other they love each other 30 million times. Just got a bit sentimental there for a bit and I lost it. So, but Nico, it's fair to say the boys love you. We all love you, and I hope you have a great year moving forward. I'll talk to you about Trindle, and I'll go to Trindle more so the 5'8". So I'll just quickly go through them. We've already mentioned Mr. Puru, so they're twins or brothers or something. Daniel Atkinson is the one that I believe Trav would like to see named at 5'8", with Nico moving to fullback, 418K. And then we've already mentioned Braden Trindle, 553. Any of those two options speaking to you boys? Is it something that you're looking at going, oh, I don't mind Braden if he is halfback doing a lot more? Obviously, that finals week 1 game when they did the point, he had an absolute game and a half, scored really, really well. Obviously, it's going to be hard for him to do that week in, week out. But is he a temptation at 553?
Not at 553, he's not. There was temptation last year when he was quite cheap in those games where he, because he did actually play really well. But no, I don't really have any sort of desire or appeal to have Braden Trindle in my side. And even if he is scoring well, I think I just go, okay, that's fine. I'm happy to go without it. There's not a lot of people that get on him, to be fair, so you're not really missing a great deal. And I don't think there's enough there to really warrant a halfback or a 5'8" slot. You know what I mean? You don't really have many options to choose from to actually have in your side. You've only got two of each, and he's definitely not in my top 2. So not me.
I agree.
Trav?
No, two. He's not in my picture at all. Look, he had a pretty good end to the year. Actually had a very good end to the year with what he did in the finals and how he sort of carried that team as halfback. Kudos to him. Jesse is right. Like, I'm not going to have him. I don't think I'm really ever going to have him unless he just goes bonkers. Because I think the other options are better. But if he does go bonkers, I think I'm going to sit there and go, kudos, man. I got it wrong. You proved us all right. Well done. But I'll see where I'm at.
It's pretty much it, isn't it? You just fall on your sword and say, good job. I'm still not buying you.
Yeah.
And I'll wrap up Atkinson in saying if he does get that position, then we'll talk a lot more about him. But for now, we know what Fitzy will be like. He'll choose Hines and obviously Braden in the halves, and that unfortunately means no game time for Atkins, or at least probably a 14 role, and he won't get much minutes playing that role. CTW. So a couple of really cheapy options that won't have much of a say, especially early on. Then you've got Mr. Hiroti, center wing, 288. Talakai, I've already mentioned with that 2RF duel. Sam Stone Street, 509K. Sione Katoa, 559K. Jesse Ramian, 635K. Kyle Iro, 640K. Absolute marvel last year that just was absolutely sensational for him. A lot of super coaches out there that got on early. And Ronaldo Mulatalo, 664K. The question up there, centre wing, gold mine or coal mine? Trav, tell me, gold mine or coal mine?
It's such a hard one to answer that question because a coal mine would infer that they're no good, and a gold mine infers that they're awesome, and they are. But we're not going to have any of them, are we? Like, I just want to point out that the Sharks have 1, 2, 3, and I'll go through these names: 4, 5 guys labeled as a center winger, averaging above 55 points. All of them, bar one, averaged above 60. That is Mulatalo, 67.8 off 20. Kaolaro, 65.5 off 20. Jesse Ramian, 65 off 23. Katoa, 57 off 21. Stone Street, off 5, 65. So when he came in, he got that. Like, that's, isn't that amazing? That's just unreal. That 5 of those averaged amazing numbers as center wingers, and not many people are going to start with any of them, and we're all going to sit there, as Jesse said earlier in this team review, going, where am I going to find ways to get these guys in at points in time? And it's just so frustrating. But geez, it's what a gold mine they have for a club to have that type of talent in their list, averaging that as Supercoach players. The problem I've got is, for me, is I will probably buy them thinking they're about to, and they'll bomb out, and that's when they'll be their lowest, and I'll stuff that up. It's really, it's like you're playing roulette with them, with hoping that you get them at those big scores when they score those big points. What a list! What a list to have.
Jesse, gold mine or coal mine?
It is a gold mine. It's a gold mine that you're not going to make any money off. And you're not going to spend up to get. That's the thing. Like, they all average over 60. And their ownership is all in the low single digits, because no one's going to go out and get your Sione Katoas, even though he's going to score you 60, 70 most of the time. Ramian's the same. Kyle Lero is a freaking revelation, and I'm going to feel horrible not having him this year. But I'm not starting with him, and I'm not looking to start with him or at some point get him. Like, I don't know. These guys don't drop in price, like they fluctuate up a lot, and they go back to this probably baseline. Mulatalo is the most volatile out of all of them, but he'll probably still at some point, maybe off the beginning, have a negative break even, priced at 664. So, like, you get him in for a patch. I tend to always get him wrong. Especially Mulatalo. Every time I've gone down that route and said, look, I'm just going to do this as a quick plug, he does bang out his lowest score of the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably not going to do that ever again. But yeah, man, what a well-oiled machine of a backline. Hey, shame Kennedy can't keep up with them, but they all are going to hit their stride. They share the love. It goes left to right very consistently. They all get a piece of the action. Just which one do you pick? And like, my favorite out of the bunch, honestly, is Kyle Lero. From what happened last year from the base, when he actually found his attacking stride, and then the assists and the tries started coming in, they didn't stop, and he was pretty much next to 80 to 100 almost every week from the back half of the season. Whew, it's going to be horrible watching that one and not having him in my side, I can assure you. But good backline, really nice options. Why not have him? It's not going to do it. Still not going to do it.
Unfortunately, what Trav said is spot on, though, and I know you've spoken about it a number of times as well, Jesse, is you get onto them, and especially the wingers, it's about timing it, and you just always time it wrong. It's the opposite winger that ends up scoring the hat-trick that week, and you're like, oh, honestly, I just had that like 2 weeks ago. It's musical chairs almost, and every single time, I guarantee a number of probably listeners can probably message us actually and let us know their own situations with this. But I feel like so many of us have been impacted by it and got impacted by it. So it's going to happen. It's notorious, and let's just enjoy it and laugh it off.
So I love the centers, to be fair. The centers are way more appealing to me than those wingers are, personally.
Yeah. All right. Fullback spot for the Sharkies. So Cade Dykes coming in bottom dollar, 198K. Liam Ison, 293K. Played the one game last year for a 60. And Will Kennedy, 472K. A lot of pressures coming into this season with Will Kennedy. I've seen a lot more people starting to talk about it as well. It feels like he is sort of the piece that might be at most risk of losing his position, even as early as not even making the team to start round one. Cade Dykes is an interesting one here because we talk about Iongi. If that is the case and we think that Fitzy won't do the Nico move, Cade Dykes is someone I'm looking at because if he can land that fullback spot, there's a lot of wraps on him. Unfortunately, he's been hampered by a few injuries. He's a freak. He can play. He's a very talented player as well. If he can get that spot and look like it's going to be his spot for the taking for a while, he quickly becomes another option that can mix things up for that flex position as well. So, look, as again, Will Kennedy's not a Supercoach option, not at all. But what becomes an option for mine is potentially either the Ison or the Dykes being that fullback if that's the way it goes. Boys, anything for the fullbacks?
Not
no
for me.
interest. Not at this point in time.
Not at all. We'll see what happens.
Look,
maybe you can keep that one in your little book for a rainy day.
I'm telling you now, I'll bring that one back out and I'll tell everyone I told you so. I'm telling you, Cade Dykes, put it in your pen it in your book. Alrighty. Who let the dogs out? The Bulldogs. First 5 rounds, the Dragons away. Round 1, round 2, the Titans at home. Round 3, the Eels away. Round 4, the Sharks away. Round 5, the Knights at home. Again, points are on the screen. Make sure you go ahead and look at those on YouTube, and we'll cover those as we go. For the hookers, for the Bulldogs, Jake Turpin, 232K. You almost forget that they've got Jake Turpin on the books. He's just sort of been there. And Reid Marnie, 562K. We've got a question there. Is it Marnie time? I'm still scarred from, 2 years ago, where he just absolutely scarred so many Supercoaches that got on him at a high price and just went downhill from literally that week that everyone got on. So for me, no, the answer is no to that question. What about you boys? What do you think? Marnie time?
No, not for me at 562. I know I think Trav had him last year for a good chunk and then sort of got, a bit over it by the end. I don't want to do it with hooker. I hate it. I don't want to go down that route again. I just want to go, look, if it's going to be anyone at that similar price, it's going to be Brayley. And I'm just going to ride the safety net of it out and not have to worry about this little hot head potentially getting suspended or punching someone or missing 1,000 tackles or whatever it is, because he's definitely got it to him. I don't want to humor it. I really don't. I don't want the headache anymore.
It's a lot. Trav, as a Reid past owner, as recent as last year, is it Marnie time?
No, it's not money time, but I think there is improvement in him, and I reckon the finals series, that finals game, I think he's had a big preseason to reflect on it, and I think he's a very important piece of that Bulldogs puzzle. He's just a very consistent player. He's a good hooker. He fits into that role. He fits into that system really well. Hopefully, the finals series he's learned from that, because he'll get better. I was a Marnie owner last year. I was pretty happy to have Marnie. Had him for most of the year. Actually, I think I had him I didn't have him all of the year, but I had him for at least 75% of it. And there was a big chunk of from the middle to almost the third quarter of the year. I sort of had enough of him, where he went 25, 39, 41, 23, 30, 45. And I just went, no. And I just kept getting it. And I kept thinking with the run, with who they were playing, it was just annoying me. I just don't want to do that again. I want to save that 50,000. At this point in time, the way that I've built my team, every single $1,000 I've got is really important. And I can drop that down to Brayley and probably get more points than him. I'm pretty happy with Brayley.
Yep, spot on. Front row forwards for the Bulldogs. Fenifo, Seve, 198K. Ryan Sutton has 2RF Jewel, 232K. Back from a big injury last year. He didn't get to play a game. Daniel Salufka Fafita, 232K. Tom Amone, 232K. Geez, a few 232Ks in there. Sam Hughes, 355K. I know there's a panel member here that's in the Sam Hughes camp at the moment. Josh Curran, 546K. And Maxi King, 565K. Trav, talk to us about front row forward and who is sticking out to you.
I was a bit of a. I think there's improvement in Sam Hughes, but I haven't got him in my team. But there's definitely improvement on it. He's probably. I think he's going to be a solid option at that mid 300,000 with more minutes on offer. I read. I think I read that he's looking at. I think they're going to start him. I think I read something around that he's going to be started. So I think that's really nice. He's going to be a big watch list for me, just based off the way that I need to figure out rookies and things. I'm not really interested in anyone else. Josh Curran's got his duel at 546 is always someone we think about. He did his job for us all, for a lot of us last year, but I'm not going to start with him. I'll watch him. I've put the star on him. And yeah, that's it for me for the Bulldogs.
Perfect. Jesse.
Yep. Look, I don't think there's a great deal of cash upside in any of them. If Sam Hughes does get the run, gets some more minutes than he was last season, he might bump up to that mid 40s sort of average. But again, I'm not, too keen on it this time around. Curran was fantastic. The duel's nice. I think it's pretty much what he'll do. That 55-60 is kind of where he was, peaking through last year. And the same as Max King at 565. I'm not going to spend that much money on a front rower if it's not May or Tino. So I just think these kind of guys, they just sort of fall away a little bit where the other guys with the higher upside and, a bit more potential sort of fit into. But they're both great, especially like King and Curran. I think for your draft side of things, really, really reliable, really solid. Going to be very appealing for a lot of people out there. But I just don't see it. I'm not really looking at either of them or any of the three, actually.
All right, news alert quickly for you. I actually have Josh Curran in my team at the moment. I've thought about it and just think early on, just while there's not much attack going on, things like that, if I can get that 55-60 out of him at the start regularly, I'm happy with that. Look, it's not concrete in, just someone for now that just seemed to fit. I went Yo for the same sort of feeling, and if I can get someone about that mid 500 mark who can get me those sorts of points on a week-to-week basis and I don't have to stress about it early, then I'm happy. So for now, he's in my team, but that can quickly change. Normally does change after these podcasts and our teams change completely. But for mine, that's the reason why I've got him. And that dual factor just allows a little bit more flexibility as well.
Yeah, Curran's always super reliable, man. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. I still think there's still a middle at the moment because Leo Thompson's there next year. There's still got some issues in that middle as well. So I think he'll get some good minutes as well. 2RF. Patrick Young, Jack Todd, Jack Spinks. Logan Spinks, Alatini. They're all mid, low price. Don't need to worry about him. Brian Sutton. We've already spoken about him. Katonga. Yep. Hopeye. Curtis Morin, 299K. Bailey Hayward, 300K. Kurt Mann, 416. Jamin Semin is just 2RF exclusive, 422. New signing, Satili Tupanua comes over, 2RF, 425. Williami Kikau, 523. Currans with the duel. And Jacob Preston, 609K. Jesse, what are you thinking?
I love Preston. I am seeing a whole lot of nothing throughout the rest of it for me personally. Yeah. And I just like Preston's the guy. He's a gun. I really wish I got more of a chance in my side last year. I brought him in. Actually, I think we brought him in together, same round, and then he got injured 2 rounds later. And it was really disappointing because I was really excited to have him in my team. And I still would be, to be fair. Like I really like Preston. I think his attack is great. He can run a line. He's solid. And the same, like I want more out of Kikau for the Dogs, just in general. I think he's sort of just been plodding along, kind of not doing what they really want from him. Maybe a bit too much of a decoy or whatever it is. Expecting a bit more out of him. We saw all the other guys. There's a lot of low 30s. There's a lot of low 40s for, Mann, Salmon, Morin, Hayward. They're not options. Tupanua probably plays a bit more through the middle, and takes a bit of load off maybe like a Sam Hughes or something. He might be playing through there, or even Curran. You could swap him. He can play at prop if he's going to start at a lock spot, and then Tupanua comes in too. So he might get a duel at some point, which could be decent enough if he is cheap. So something to keep an eye on for Tupanua. But I did get torched by him a bit last year, and I kind of don't want to go back there again. So honestly, it's just for appeal, for viability, Preston and Curran. Even Kickout's a bit too volatile. So yeah, Preston and Curran, I like them both. I really, really like Preston. I think another one of those guys that sort of gets underappreciated a little bit.
Yeah. Trav?
Yeah, good shout out for Preston. I guess the question for Preston is his score inflated because he scored the 3 scores above 100, or is his score not as good because of the 2 very low minute games where he had 31 minutes and scored 24 against Penrith, and had 49 minutes and scored 29? And is his average, should it be better for if we fix off those low minute games and those low scores? That's an interesting question, and depends on which way. Are you a half glass full type of person? So yeah, I'm pretty keen on it, Preston. I'm confident I won't start with him, but I wouldn't mind seeing what happens. They've got a really good draw to start off with, and I think he can do really well against them. Look, the Titans pack is gonna be tough for him, but I still think he plays for the Bulldogs, and as a powerhouse team that I think the Bulldogs are going to be moving forward, I think that can be nullified. Then he's got Eels. I think Sharks are vulnerable defensively a little bit against guys like Preston. Then he's got the Knights, so like he's got a pretty good run to start with. So he's definitely something I'm watching with a very keen eye at 609K.
I can't echo anything else that you guys have said enough. I think it's sort of the top 2 options there, and that's really it for me. Halfback, the young gun Mitch Woods. Is it finally his time to shine for this Bulldogs team at some point throughout the year? Supercoach will be eagerly awaiting this one, because obviously at bottom dollar, he'll be probably straight into a lot of teams, saving a little bit of money and trying to make moves elsewhere by the time he does get a bit of a run. Joseph O'Neill, Drew Hutchinson, 412K, and Toby Sexton, 481K. Apart from, I guess, what I just said about Mitch Woods, if he does get that chance to play, the other guys for mine, no options whatsoever, no interest. Anything to add?
No bueno. Not this time around. Sorry, Drew.
No, thank you. Mr. Fix-It. He's gone away quickly, hasn't he? For the 5'8", Carl Oloapu, I believe. Well, there was rumors like last week he was going to the Dolphins, but I don't know what's happened there. But there were rumors that he was up there, and pretty much contracts are all getting signed, things like that. But 232K. Matty Burton, 648K. What are we thinking for Matt Burton? Average 66.3. You see there on the screen. We can probably talk about it at the end, but only 4 players averaged over 60 plus in 2024. He was one of those. So if you're looking at upside players, he's probably one of the few at the Dogs that have got a bit of upside. What are our thoughts?
Trav, I'll let you take this one.
He's too expensive for 5'8" for me. I do like him. He's a good player. He's certainly someone, even last year, where I was even trying to sell Jesse to get him at a couple of points in time where there was a serious conversation around getting him. He was a good option because he finished off the year really well with those. After round 20, he scored 370s, 250s, and 350s and 100. So like he finished off really well. The Bulldogs are going to get better. I think he gets better. I do. 1 or 2 points. He kicks as well for him. He's a gun, 60. But I don't have 648 that I want to spend on that just yet. I think Dearden's going to take his game to another level, and I've invested there instead, who's a fair bit cheaper than that. So, I don't hate the pick at all for people. I think there's some good upside. To me, you just can't have all these guns. You just can't. You've got to find someone that's 50 grand cheaper, 100 grand cheaper here, there. And this is one of those spots I think we could do that.
Jesse?
Yeah, if I'm going to go cheaper anywhere, it tends to really be in that 5-8 spot. I don't really like spending massive money unless I'm certain these guys are going to be, fantastic out of it. He's 3K, 2K cheaper than Dylan Brown, and Dylan Brown has a dual. A bit more consistency about him. He might not have the potential upside of a Burton, but it's the floor of Burton that scares me off him more than anything else. It wasn't that long ago where Burton was popping 20s out, and you're just like, oh god, it's really low. Again, the Dogs are a different outfit then too, so I think he does get better too. But like for a bit less, I really like Galvin. I really like Munster. I really like. There's a few guys down even in the 400s, in the 5/8s that are quite appealing. So that's kind of where I'm a little bit turned off by 650 odd. I think it's just a bit dear in a 5/8 spot for just. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary spending when you're already trying to fit in so many other guns. I don't think Burton really has the mold of these other big dogs. So not for me, but like he's definitely a good play for some people out there. It's just there's so much money to spend. Early days.
I was going to say it's often with him as well. It's your time to run, but as you've both rightly said, it's actually a nice start for the Bulldogs as well. It's just that at the same time there, we've seen in the past points are at a premium, and do you full on in trust that he can get that and cover his sort of average? I'm not too sure, but I don't absolutely hate it at all. So centre wings get to so Inari Tuala, new signing from the Knights, 366K. Harry Hayes, 369K. Marcelo Montoya, new signing from the Warriors, 408. Blake Wilson, 459. I thought he was a shoo-in for this wing spot, but maybe not now with the signings. Stephen Crichton, 517. Bronson Sherry, 523. Connor Tracy, fullback dual, 587. King Carraz, 702. Come on down. Trav, can King Carraz become the number one centre wing in the game at the end of 2025?
Yes, because I don't think Valentine Holmes is going to average 80. I don't think Lomax has got 79, as we've already spoken about. I think Carraz has got 5 or 6 more points in a team that's going to get even better. He is and will be the number one centre wing. I don't even actually, to be honest, I don't even think that's a bold call. I think that's actually a pretty educated and good call. I can just foresee that. And just quickly, I don't see anyone else in the centre wings as an interest to me at all.
Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, look, the Dogs aren't a massive Supercoach scoring team. They don't have big players. They've got a handful of guns, and the side himself are a very good machine, but they don't have massive scorers. And Carraz is the one that is 74.1 on the wing last year, which is expected to be his position for this year, and with a 73.6 at centre. So not even that much of a drop. He's just a freak of nature, really. His base pretty much over 50, 55 in base with the centre spot too. He runs, he tackle busts. There's nothing he can't do. The only thing that could make him better, which isn't going to happen, is if he started kicking. And then I think I would pay whatever price they decided to put on him if there's Carraz is a goal kicker now. I was like, give me, I'll pay $1 million for him. I'll pay $1 million comfortably. It would just be the best thing ever. So he's he's the best Supercoach player in that side by far. I've had him in almost a good majority of the teams that I've made up. He's been my premium centre wing, and at the moment I am looking more in the Garrick route with the whole wing side and the goal kicking as well. He's probably the only guy that I think that can rival Carraz, and that's because he kicks. I just think that just that alone is insane of a stat. The fact that he can keep up with Lomax, who scored all those tries and kicked. Valentine Holmes did the exact same, and Garrick. And all he's doing is just playing on the wing and playing through the centers. It's just insane. So yeah, he's definitely a set and forget. I think he's a freak. I think he gets better as well. Can't speak highly enough of him. So every chance he is up there, number one. I'd love to see it.
It's funny. Every single team I've made so far, he's literally one of the first players I pick, and I make sure I have my team based around him. He's just in there no matter what. So set and forget for me as well. The number one spot, can definitely see him finishing the year with that number one next to his name in the CTW. The fact that he's pretty much locked in to play the wing through the whole year as well is great for me, and makes him even more appealing. I just can't say he's one of the ones that I would say definitely pay and confidently pay $702K for to start the year.
Yeah. Well, he bases over 50 without anything.
Yeah.
So, it's only going to get better. And he always gets the attacking stats, always. So it's such a safe $700K to spend. It's crazy to say. Yeah.
See, 12. See, it'll improve, but just on his tries. He got 12 tries last year. I think that goes up to I think that's pretty comfortable. I think I can comfortably say he'll get about 15. I think they'll offensively get better. Yeah, I mean, he runs. He's added a bit of a kicking game to him, so there's a little bit in that for it. He had 1 try assist last year. He had 18 line breaks, 633 receipts. That's a lot of running in a season. On 186 tackle made. So he's tackling well, and he doesn't miss them at 85%. He had 4,727 total run meters at 189. He's improved that from 128, 164, 189. I think that can be comfortably. That's top O level. He'll get to top O level, averaging over 200 this year coming. He went from 159 kick meters to 109 kick meters to 511 kick meters. So there's, make that a 10 meter run, and there's another few points. There's another point or two. Like it's, he's just got improvement in him, and I felt like he did that with ease this year, like last season. Like it just felt like he just did it without really having to try, but he does, and he tries his guts out, and he's constantly on the run, and he's always there. And he's just got to find another nous, that little bit of nous to get a few more tries, and he's next level. Yeah, he will be number one for me, and I think you've got to find a way to start him. At the moment, I went Carraz down to Garrick. And very easily can push him back up.
Yeah, I'm going to find it very hard to not start with Carraz, to be honest. I didn't last year, and it sucks not having him because I sung his praises all preseason too. And kind of missed out on all the glory at the beginning. So, yeah, and no Addo Carr as well. You'd have to imagine that, that he does get a bit more focus, a lot targeted down the right side. So, yeah, it's all making sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trav, a quick one for you. That's just quickly popped up in my head. Would you rather prioritize having Pappy in your team or Carraz?
I would prioritize Carraz in my team over Pappy, and that's funny to say because I've just put Pappy in as a third play as a fullback, but I'd prioritize Carraz as a center winger over Pappy.
Well, that's what I was sort of trying to go to. Would it be worse for you to go back to Iongi and then move so you can have both Garrick and Carraz to start the year, and that's almost finger licking good.
It is.
Jesse, who would you go, Pappy or Carraz? Who would you prioritize?
I would go Carraz. I'd go Carraz personally as well. Just because the option of Iongi is there, we don't really have that 230 potential cash grab to grab in the center spot, even just as a flex in general. But look, what he can do in a base, he averaged more than Pap did in general anyway. I just go Carraz. I like it.
Carraz, come on, imagine that. How good's that look now after this podcast? Garrick and Carraz in your CTWs to start the year. That looks sensational.
No, I just played with it. I just put Pappenhausen in the fullback and then dropped Garrick to try and get Carraz, and I'm 9K short. So there's a little bit of playing around. I can try and find a way to get Carraz in there instead of Garrick.
That's easy enough.
That's easy. And that might be for the Legends group there. They might be able to see an updated version of that team tomorrow. So make sure you do subscribe if you can for that $2.99 a month. Last one, the fullback. We've mentioned Connor Tracy, not really an option for us with that duel. Blake Taff is $386K. seem to be out of favour now. I think Connor Tracy has established himself as that number one choice for now. Perhaps they might be able to look for a junior coming through or sign someone if they want to get to that next level. No disrespect there, but for mine, neither are an option moving forward.
No.
Tracy's locked that spot in, rightfully so, but not going that way. Not for 587 either. The centre wing's nice, but I'm not buying him in.
I just don't see him on that list getting too much better. I think that's where he is. That's what you get. The way that they play on that list with what they have, that's about him, and you can't have that as a fullback.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions to get to, which we will, but just quickly the final point that we've got here. So the defensive juggernaut, do we think it continues for the Bulldogs, which then impacts pretty much any team that's versing them on a week-to-week basis, and that only 4-player average over 60 plus in 2024? Do you think that will improve? Jesse?
I think the defensive juggernaut gets better. Now that the foundations are set in, I think Serrato's got what he wants out of him and they kind of know what to play. I think the league kind of has a bit more of an idea around the Dogs and might be able to combat it a bit better though. So it might, go another way. But I just think they know what they're doing now. They're solid. At the same time, I don't think their Supercoach scores get super relevant again in general. I think they're more prioritizing playing defensive, solid brands of football than they are about appeasing the super coaches of the world. Karaz does that in his own, so there's not much else to worry about. So, yeah, I think they do get solid, more so solid defensively, and I don't think there's other options to increase in Supercoach. We just went through that entire side, and there was really very, very few that stood out to us that weren't already averaging over 60 in general. I can't see anyone else lifting.
Yeah. I've seen a few teams that have Crichton in their team. Crichton is the number one centre in the competition, right? In my opinion, he's the best centre in the competition, but he's not a Supercoach player. So this is one of those chats around, are they, just because they're a good player doesn't relate to stats and what happens as a Supercoach player, and he's not one of them. So I just don't recommend you put him in that team. I think he might improve, but will he get to 60? No. I think probably at this point in time, maybe Curran's the only one that I think can get above 60. But I don't think Tracy's going to average 60 again. So I think that kind of drops and just averages itself out. This is not a team that's built for Supercoach, as Jesse said. There's 2 or 3 players, Karaz, Preston, Burton are within the Supercoach picture, but they're not a Supercoach team. They don't play like that. And it's fun to watch, though, isn't it? It's still a really fun, enjoyable game to watch them. But so I also think what the key to this is Serrato and that team needs to figure out. He knows that the competition's just gone and watched 6 months worth of off season on the Bulldogs. So how else can they adapt? And that's the key, right? And I think they can. I think they do. I think I've got them as my second on the ladder. I think they get better.
Wow.
Second.
Look at that. That's huge.
The Dogs are coming second.
Yep. Got them second.
Holy moly.
You've got rocks in your head.
You got a free shirt coming your way, my friend.
That's huge. Hey, you've given a few spoilers out tonight, Trav. You got to start learning this game a bit. But spoiler alert, there you go for Trav's ladder prediction. You've no second spot already. Doggies fans are happy. So that'll be it for it. We'll go on to the questions. Just finally, one more plug for it. Legends Group. If you want to let us know any of your feedback and you don't want to message through YouTube or the podcast, message us through there. Happy to listen and answer any questions you have further to anything you've heard tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube if you are watching from there. It goes a long way to help supporting us as we've experienced lately. And there is an option to become a member there, a membership. There's a few different tiers and stuff like that. Get the video early, support us. All this is just help support us a bit further. All the time and effort that does go into things we do very much appreciate. But everything will still remain free and you'll get access to everything. Now, thanks to TC Coolers once again for all the coolers given away. Try and get a few up here and let you have a look at the Supercoach version. Got the traditional page version. Very, very nice looking coolers. Last week's winners have already received theirs and absolutely love it. You saw the picture on the page today when they were looking through their Supercoach app, which was awesome to see. So the Instagram, we had a few last night already. There's just the one on Instagram for Supercoach, a few on Facebook. So The_Cashos, is Hess an option? Should see 50 to 55 minutes. Lolo is out, ? Boys, are we liking Cohen Hess? Jesse is
Yeah,
on the
he's on the radar for sure. What is he? 335. I haven't got his price up in front of me.
327.
327. Look, it's a duel. It's not hard to hit that point. It fits the front row hole if you've got a plug one, even the second row, to be fair.
yeah.
Look, I had a really, really good time with Cohen Haas back in 2018. So it's going a long, long way back in a draft. Really, really good year. I will never forget it. I won that year. I won that draft too, and he was a staple in that side. So, yeah, look, it's low risk. I think he makes money at the very least. It might not be a lot of money, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't know what you're sort of expecting. If you're gonna like play him as an option, probably not. I wouldn't go and lock in confidently in a starting side. I probably wouldn't even put a chip on him, to be fair. I think I might just plug him away and see if I could make some coin, and hopefully, he has a really good run, and you can go, oh, look at that, like you sort of uncovered someone. But like if it's the Hess of really old, you've got some potential there, but I don't know if we're going back 7 years. That's probably a little bit too far back, and he hasn't really been super relevant for the last few. So yeah, it's very low risk. It's a jewel. It's nice enough. Can't really go too wrong.
Just needs some minutes. Trav?
Go back to 2023, played 24, he averaged 41 on 49.5 minutes. I think that's probably the best you're going to get out of him nowadays. He's just coming back off an injury. He's at that price. Look, he's definitely an option because we're screaming out for someone for players in the low 300s and 200s. But at an average of around 40, he might make a little bit more. Yeah, he's an option. I think it's a watch list. I wouldn't be going out of my way to put him in my team just yet.
Yeah. Just give us the 2018 stats as well, please, Trav. No, moving on. Facebook question. Facebook questions. Got a couple of the the legends have actually gone in. That gets some double entries into the draw each week as well. Added a little benefit there. Samantha Dennison, do you think Lee, and we did mention, I'll answer a few of these for the Manly ones tonight, but we'll go again in case we did miss anything exactly direct with these questions. Do you think Lehigh will start or come off the bench for Manly? Not mentioning many lineups she's got there. And what are your thoughts on Bully? So I'm guessing Bullymore. He's not mentioned in any lineups that I've seen, but in her opinion, deserves to be there. What do we think, Trav, around that? I think Lehigh we've spoken about might find you boys are thinking might find his way out of the lineup if Garrick is rumoured to be on the wing. Personally, I'd have Lehigh there still and Garrick in centres. I think Garrick did a good job. Supercoach purposes, we've all established we'd prefer a wing Garrick. But yeah, what are we thinking, Trav?
We touched on the Hopewadi thing. I would love to see him at fullback and have Turbo in the centres. I just think that would just be insane and be very hard to beat the way that Turbo plays. But Turbo's freaking good in any spot, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want to play him and keep the list happy, I'd be doing that. In terms of Bullimore, I have zero interest in him. At 357 last year, averaged 36. He did play 21 games. On 32 minutes. Do I think he's going to do it again this year? I think that's just what you're going to get from him. I think that's where he's at. That's what you're going to have, unless someone's got some extra news or extra information that I haven't heard of. I think that's about it. I'm not high on him at all.
Jesse, anything to add?
Not on Bullimore. No, I'd be interested to know why you are asking that question, to be fair, and what other options if maybe Manly supporter probably see a lot of upside in him, to be fair. So you always see the best out of your
fan.
Yeah, you always see the best out of your own club, don't you? So, look, it just could be good upside down the line for the club, but I don't think for Supercoach entirely relevant. With the Hopewadi thing, I'd love for him to get a position. I just don't know where they kind of line up yet. If Garrett goes to the wing, we're assuming Turbo's going to be the fullback because he's the fullback. Hopewadi doesn't have a spot in that side. I don't think anyone else can fill the void of centre besides Cooler, and unfortunately, it puts Hopewadi in the 14 at the very least for me. So, if Garrick was still set to be a centre, you could imagine that he might make his way to a wing again, which was pretty good. But again, I don't think so. If Garrick is going to the wing, there's no room for Hopewadi in that side unless Turbo's there.
So you can see Cooler Talau centers. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Peter Markham, another subscriber, another legend. Thank you. Is there no chance of a Cardi party with 2 fully fit halves? I've already declared it. I'm saying the party's over. The party's dead. Get out of my house. Party's over. See you later. Boys, the party, is it still going for you guys?
I think the party will always be there, but he's not Supercoach relevant for me.
I find him very Supercoach. Yeah, I love Cardi. I think he's super relevant when Moses is with him, and the stats definitely show a drop without him and a massive increase with him. So, look, 570 is a bit too much for me in general for Cardi. I do like getting him at a bargain if I can. Don't know if he will drop too far down, but I'm not going to rule the party out. I think the party's still on, but I won't be attending.
Yeah. EJ Neolum, I hope I got that last name right. Now, shout out to EJ. He was our first winner so far of the giveaway to our Magic Round event at the Velveteen Rabbit, which is awesome. So he's got secured his first double pass. What I want to do right now, and we're going to do it throughout until the event, is give away randomly to listeners and stuff like that a chance to get that double pass. So all you have to do is simply, if you've gotten this far on the podcast, which I know there's lots out there that do, thank you. Message the page the code word rabbit. And if you're the first person to do that, will secure the next double pass to the Magic Round event. So that's the Saturday, 11 to 2. Come, have a few drinks, have some food, have a yarn with us. We won't be doing a live show. That's been asked a number of times, but I don't want to do it. Or we want to actually spend some time mingling with all you guys, having a chat. We'll have a little mic going around doing little interviews and stuff, but it won't be anything over the top. We want to spend some time with the crew and all you guys, the listeners and stuff, and say a big thank you. So message the code word rabbit. The first to do that, you've got yourself a double pass entry into that event. His question is, thoughts on Val Holmes in a different team this year? Will he still be as relevant? I think Trav's already said a definite no to that one. I've actually got to support him on that decision. The Dragons just give me the shivers at the moment looking at him for some reason. Do you have anything else to add on what you have mentioned earlier in this pod about Val Holmes, Trav?
No, not really. Look, and we'll explore that when we get to the Dragons review. So without going too much into it now, but to answer the question, I'm not keen on him. I'm not keen on that Dragons team. I just don't know how Ilias and Flanagan are going to manage the halves. I don't know where the points are going to come, which makes him relevant. I don't know how the ball's going to get out to the wing, which is going to help him. I still got my question marks around Gutho and Cook and what they can provide. And does Cook play enough with Little and what that matchup looks like? There's just so many things that I'm not keen on. So at this point in time, I'm not interested in him.
Yeah. Jesse, anything to add?
No, man, too. Look, he's $784,500. That's a lot of money.
Dragons.
At the Dragons. That's huge.
On an 80 average at the Cowboys, yeah.
God, it's massive. That's big bickies to spend. At least watch and let the price come down before you commit that kind of money to anyone. It's not named Nathan Cleary or Tom Trbojevic, in my opinion.
Or Karaz. if you're Karaz, you're
Mate,
going.
80K. Karaz is 80K less. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. I agree. That's it. That's the questions not out of the way. We've got them all. Thank you, everyone. The basically extra questions from last week has been noted, and the valuable questions and the detailed questions. We love it. It does make the podcast a little bit longer, but we've always said we'll get to you guys. We'll spend the time to answer. If you guys spend the time to just get them in, and you've definitely done that this week. Friday will be the draw for the 2 coolers this week, so make sure you keep an eye on the page to make sure you are the winners for that one. Thank you for listening. Really do appreciate it. To the boys as well for again, all those stats and their weird and wacky, wonderful things. We all love it. Again, please subscribe, especially on YouTube. Please hit that notification button on podcasts as well, and rate us if you can, please. It takes literally 20 seconds. It means the world to us. If you can, help spread us even further. Just giving us that rating and make sure we pop up whenever people do search NRL, Supercoach, stuff like that. So thank you. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it once again. We'll be back next week for the NRL podcast, as well as our Supercoach podcast for week 3. Jesse, do you want to give him a teaser about the teams that could be on the list next week?
I'd have to go back and have a look at my list, unfortunately. So, sorry, nope, not this time around.
You don't get a teaser. You know
Not
what?
this
We'll
time.
put it in the Legends group tomorrow. So if you want to know the teams for next week, you'll have to check there. Sorry, guys. But thank you. And we will catch you for the next one.